Jockey, hello, you're number one today. I gotta make my Instagram. Did y'all see that? Nintendo Direct? Are you kidding me? Are you absolutely joking me? G-Mama, hello. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Woo! Alright. Let me... Here we go. It's time to do the thing. Jargy beat me. No! No! Boop, 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 boop. And Lila, hello. Alright, here we go. Alright, babies. Are you ready? Hello, we're playing Ace Attorney. We're gonna maybe finish this case. But yo, did you see that Nintendo Direct though? That was cool. What's funny? Is there something on my face? Alright, hello. Yo, but did you all see that Nintendo Direct? That was for Instagram, but now it's for Twitch again. Did you all see it? They're remaking the 1,000-Year Door! Oh my god! Banana sandwiches. I cannot even believe-ies. Believey-weevies it. Ba-boop. Ba-boop. Boop. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, baby. Oh, yeah, baby. Okay. Alright, I'm putting my Instagram telephone away. For Mario RPG fans are eating good this year. We got the, Super Mario RPG remake, which I like more, but that's just because I grew up with it. Bree's getting comfy in here. It's true. Hello. Wowie, wow. I'm still just like, there really weren't a lot of like misses. There were kind of the usual, like, I don't really care about, you know, these little, these little silly little games. Super Mario, the platformers, man, the RPG ones are really good. I never played the original Paper Mario, for the 64, but, and I only later I played, 1,000-Year Door, like, on my Wii, so I didn't play it, like, in the GameCube era. But holy moly. It was funny because, like, back then there was a Let's Player. I think he still Let's Plays, but it was Chugga Conroy. And I used to really like Chugga Conroy. I feel like he was one of the first Let's Players before it was really, like, I don't know. He wasn't, like, particularly, like humorous, I guess, but he just made, like, really good Let's Plays that also sort of served as guides. I'm tearing apart the wrapper on my bottle. And that's really, really, really old YouTube, right? But he started playing that game, and I was like, ooh, what if I got this game and played it myself instead? And so I did that, and then I could go back and, like, watch the Let's Play. Never ending well with 5 months! Yay! Thank you so much! It's good to see you. Hello. Oh my god. We're gonna finish the fight Halo Reach today. I have a couple, man, when we're getting near to finishing this game, and we have one more case. I don't know if we're gonna finish this case today, but there is only one section left. There's no more spoiler alert, I guess, but there's no more trial part, according to my spoiler-free walkthrough. There is just one more investigation, so, like, I don't know specifically what that means. It's a bit of a beefy one, but, I wonder if we can't... Whoa! Ah! 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 Hello and welcome! I wonder if we can't, finish that today. I got time. It's fine. No big deal! Ah! How could you? Yeah, but after we beat this game, I have two options in mind. So watching the Nintendo Direct today, they announced DLC for that Eastward game. I think it's Eastward or Eastbound. But I think it's Eastward. I streamed a few streams of that a long time ago, and I don't know, I think it was a lot more RPG than I was expecting. I thought it was going to be just more of an action platformer. Which, like, I like an RPG, certainly, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't what I was expecting, so I, like, stopped streaming it. I would like to beat that game, so I'm considering maybe playing that when we're done here, but then additionally, there is also that Bug Fables game, which I think I would like to play as well. So, I don't know. I might ask y'all what y'all think, like, once we get going. But I want your input now. Because y'all are the ones that come to these streams, like, actually, these days. There are people in the Discord that are, like, part of the community. But perhaps they can't make these early morning weekday streams. So I want to know what y'all think. But with that in mind, it's time. I'm going to turn the game on. My mouse batteries died, like, right before stream started, so I had to, like, rush and get the batteries, like, get new batteries in, only to find out that we are low on AAA batteries, so I'm gonna have to order some more. 5 p.m. here, hell yeah, that's good. I'm a very good time for the British viewers. All right, baby, here we go. A beefy examination, moving on through this case. Oh, shoot. Woo! Woo! Woo, woo, woo. 2nd November. Here we go. I still can't quite believe what just happened. I know. I inquired with the bailiff after the court session was adjourned. And it seems Mr. Vigil was taken to hospital to recover. He fainted after he remembered all of his Kingdom Hearts chains of memories. Right. Woo! He's so large. Hiding in my room. My mom came back from Canada with COVID. How miserable. Ugh, I'm sorry. She should be the one hiding in her room, but you take care of yourself, absolutely. I wonder if this bird is still alive. Anyways. Mr. Vigil attempted to commit suicide by jumping out of the window of the prison governor's office. Because he was framed! But ever since then, he's completely blocked the memory of those events from his mind. Nobody knew his secret, not his family, not the man himself, but I forced it out in the open. Was it wrong of me to do that? Did I overstep the mark, I wonder? I have a bottle of tea today, so if you can hear it. Right out! Hello, a child. Oh, Iris. You're miles away! Anyway, I brought a fresh pot of southern tea for you. Oh, thank you. You and Suzy have had an exhausting day so far, haven't you? Oh! Yeah, you can say that. Thank you, Iris. I'm thoughtful of you. Whatever. T's like whatever, I guess. I'm Sasato. Do you know what do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is? When we came out of the courtroom back to the defendant's antechamber, he disappeared. Oh, no, I don't know. He just suddenly sprang to his feet and left. All he said was, I must leave. I wonder if he's pursuing the mystery of Inspector Gregson's death. Probably not. Well, you know what Hurley's always saying, don't you? There are mysteries in this world that should perhaps never be solved. I don't think I've ever heard him say that. But the construction of the solution only comes at the expense of the destruction of something else. What does that mean? He knows very well that when you open someone else's old wounds, you often open your own too. But he just can't take his own advice and leave well alone. Solving mysteries is too important for him. That's so true. That's so valid, bestie. That's what I like about Hurley Interrupt. Suppose there's a lot the great detective. I suppose that's the lot of a great detective in some ways. Let's go to the Sonic Symphonic. We got tickets for that. So you can't get sick. Yeah, no, absolutely. You take care of yourself, but I'm sorry that you have to deal with this. Yeah, Cozy and I got tickets. Cozy got tickets for the both of us, I should say. Because she's a sweetheart and I love her. But that's in like January for us. That's a ways away, I believe. Maybe it's at the end. I don't remember when it is. I think it's January. So then, let's have tea, and then I'll give you a hand. Oh, do you have time, Iris? Yes, I finished this month's manuscript at last. Well, barely a day to spare before that deadline. Bubble Wallace, hello.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to it. A brand new story to read in the adventures of Herlock Sholmes.
You know, I always hide Harley's violin in the days before I have a deadline. You do? Poor Mr. Sholmes.
I'm sure that's very wise, Iris. How sensible of you!
Now then, my dear fellows, let's make a plan of action before we continue our investigation. Alright, let's talk. Let's talk about all of it, baby. So, how'd I go in card this morning? Well, we still don't know about the truth. We still don't know the truth about what's really happening, but one thing's increasingly clear. Lord Van Zieks definitely didn't do it. I'm gonna!
Yes, that's right.
I'm just going crazy with their voice.
We managed to uncover several new facts as well.
Oh, brother. And there was another development too, Kazuma. You got hurted, what happened?
Yes, it's quite clear now. The Kazuma-sama is not himself. The way he's acting, it's almost as if he's possessed.
I know, I mean, at the end of the proceedings earlier, he was like a bloodhound the way he was chasing down Mr. Vigil's forgotten past. He's not normally so mercilessly persistent. What's going on in his head, I wonder? I don't know. I really need to sit down with him and try to understand what he's going through. The Reaper's innocence. Gregson was really murdered the day before his body was discovered. And Lord Van Zieks has to be innocent, you see. What? The day before? Well, that should be easy enough to work out, just by examining the corpse, surely.
Yes, you would expect so, but curiously, no time of death was included in the autopsy report.
That is curious. There are still unanswered questions about Lord Van Zieks, though, aren't there?
Ah, do you mean?
I mean, what was he doing there on Fresno Street that day in the first place?
Well, according to the man's testimony, he said he was investigating Inspector Gregson, didn't he?
And it turns out that little room was actually the inspector's secret office. Oh, that sounds like it all has the makings of a wonderfully devilish plot. But then why was that notice board in there covered with all those particular papers? Papers about cases with a link to the Reaper. I'm starting to get a bad feeling about it. You're starting to get a bad feeling about this? Oh dear, that sounds more like something horribly devilish.
We must start by looking into Inspector Gregson's movements of late.
Gregson's movements. Never imagined I might have to be investigating an inspector's movements.
Well, according to the entry in his...
I'm having a hard time reading this morning.
He was carrying out an incognito investigation of the Red-Headed League the day before his death.
Oh, you mean he was doing the same as Harley? Well, Mr. Sholmes was trying to apply, whereas the inspector was supposed to be investigating.
I do wish it had been the other way around.
Anyway, as it turns out, the inspector who went to investigate the Red-Headed League that day wasn't actually Gregson at all. It was Mr. Vigil in possession of Gregson's ID. You know what that sounds like to me? Establishing an alibi.
Oh my! Yes, you're absolutely right, Iris.
But why would Gregson need an alibi?
It would appear that the inspector had something to do that he wished to keep secret.
I don't believe it. I always thought he was just a harmless lover of fish and chips. But perhaps they were seasoned with something a little more potent than salt and vinegar. Like blood. Is that not what you meant? Wait, what do you mean? You got hurt, so you have to leave in a month? What are you talking about, Bubba Wallace? Or onion. Without layers. I think this case is throwing a red herring. I love it.
I think perhaps we should try to move away from food analogies.
Well, anyway, Lord Van Zieks felt the need to investigate Gregson.
Yes, I agree. We must find out what he knows. Let's go to jail.
Vigil, you say? Isn't that the name of the lady who came to visit Harley yesterday? Excuse me.
That's right. To ask Mr. Sholmes if he would help her to find her missing husband.
Only Mr. Sholmes completely passed the buck to us. Actually, didn't you say that Mr. Vigil had been taken to hospital? Do you know which one?
I don't! Sorry. It's St. Sinners. It's the only hospital in all of England.
I wonder if all the other hospitals in London have closed down.
We only had enough animation budget for one background.
That's amazing, Rana! You've found the lady's husband already. Well, I suppose I have by accident.
And 10 years ago, while Mr. Vigil was the chief warder at the prison, he was responsible for overseeing the professor's incarceration.
No! So when the convict escaped, he was held responsible and immediately dismissed. Sometimes I really don't want to grow up. You got a long time. There's more for 10 years after that. While he was ostensibly working as a peddler, he also had another secret job. He was paid by Gregson to be a stand-in to impersonate the inspector. To impersonate Gregson? But why? I have absolutely no idea. Maybe to establish lots of alibis. Jenny was right. I'm starting to think all adults are up to no good now. Including you, Bruno. I haven't paid anyone to impersonate me.
That means he has ties to the professor and to Inspector Gregson, though. So I do think we ought to pay a visit to Mr. Vigil, don't you?
Back to St. Sinners, then. Look at all these things we gotta do. No more food analogies, but I'm just eating them up. Well, I think it's clear we need to do, isn't it? Let us investigate, my dear fellows.
Oh, Iris, you're even more enthusiastic than usual today.
If anyone has anything to hide, my special Wilson shooting iron will soon set them straight. That water pistol? It's stuffed full of piping hot, extra special blend of mine.
And I'm quite sure it'll be very effective.
It'll cool off instantly. Better be careful not to hide anything. Well, it feels a little strange that Mr. Sholmes is nowhere to be seen, but still, let's go and see what we can find out.
Yes!
Let's get the hell out of here. Let's leave this place. Let's talk to Van Zeeks first. Hello, Mr. Reed Man. He's a little reed boy. Gossamer, hello. Welcome, welcome.
Lord Van Zeeks is reading, look.
It doesn't seem like he wants to visit us, does it? But he must have noticed we're here, surely. What do you Nipponese want? That's no way to greet the lawyer who's trying his hardest to prove your innocence, is it? Perhaps not. Stressful day. Oh no! I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad I'm here. I apologize. So what can I do for you, Mr. Naruhodo?
Lord Van Zeeks speaking earnestly!
Oh, the five are left over London for the first time in months tomorrow! This does feel very, very strange. Don't like bully him about it. We'll never do it again. I must say I was impressed. Oh? Well, thank you. Not by you, by your fellow Nipponese, your prosecutor friend. Oh, I see, yes. It's sardonic, don't you think? For a man such as me, so loathing of the Nipponese, to be entirely at the mercy of the two of you. I'm racist, and it's your problem, I suppose. It's a retribution for having played the part of the Reaper all these years. Played the part? I think Gregson was the Reaper. I don't know. That would make a lot of things make sense. You once told me that you gladly allowed people to believe you were the Reaper, because it helped reduce the amount of serious crime that took place in London. If keeping quiet and playing the part benefits the cause, a cause I myself am committed to pursuing, then why would I choose to say anything? But the henchman of a criminal killed by the Reaper attacked you only the other day. And that was just the most recent of many attempts on your life, wasn't it? Someone is clearly profiting from your silence about all. Someone is using you! Believe me, ever since the Reaper first appeared, I've been doing my utmost to expose him, or rather expose the organization.
Ah! It's a whole organization!
It's inconceivable that all those accidents were orchestrated by one man. No, the Reaper always appears to have very accurate information about the accused in each case. See? I don't know! Which can only mean that somebody at Scotland Yard... Ah!
Someone you can't mean...
It's taken me many years, but I finally identified the central figure in this Reaper organization. Tobias. Ah! It's Gregson!
No, no!
Gregson, the Reaper? I refuse to believe this twist for so long. It makes a lot of sense, baby! So the reason you were investigating Inspector Gregson is because you intended to expose him as the Reaper? As I said, the Reaper of the Bailey is no single person. It's a highly secret organization with close ties to Scotland Yard. But there's no doubt that Gregson was a key member of that organization.
I don't believe it!
I assign that Gregson that he was behind all those other criminals meeting there. Gregson didn't do the dirty work himself.
Oh!
He was the tactician. His job was to covertly investigate the Marks and plot their assassinations. In order to do that without arousing suspicion, he regularly needed a firm alibi. Which is where Mr. Vigil came in, posing as the inspector. Vigil knows nothing of the Reaper, but the room he rents on Fresno Street was almost certainly the headquarters of the operation. Gregson would have met the assassin there for briefings. So we don't actually know who carried out the killings then? Actually, I do have a name.
You what? You what, mate? Well, if you can name the man, then you have the true identity of the Reaper already then.
Or, I can name the woman.
Oh.
Oomst? She's a young woman by the name of Assassin. Assassin. That's so dumb. Come on. Come on. You have to stop. Wait, what? Shin? Wait, do we know a Shin? Oh, wait. Was that her? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, the true name of a terrifying killer I know only too well. Apparently her name is... And Sasha in Japanese and also forms a pun, but a much less lame one? Okay. She did be murdering. She came to Japan posing as a visiting student. Murdered Dr. John H. Wilson. Then, just when it seemed that a diplomatic protection would help her escape Japan and conviction, she died. The mysterious woman was herself murdered in a small summer beach hut by a photographer. And that woman was actually the Reaper of the Bailey? It seems unrealistic.
To Naruhodo, this perhaps isn't the place to discuss.
No, of course not. We can't mention it here. The fact that she killed Dr. John H. Wilson. Because Iris doesn't know, and it's very likely that the man was her father. Ha!
Asashin! I should let her father know. I should let father know at once.
Yes, I agree. Rie got framed for murder by the Reaper. The Reaper's been busy. Kazuma, isn't it? Kazuma Asogi? You say he's a friend of yours. My best friend. We're just friends. We're definitely just friends. He's the whole reason I got to come to Britain. It was all on his merits. I have nothing but respect for him. And love. And kisses. Lots of kisses. Yes, I understand that only the best students are selected for such opportunities. And I had a fine demonstration of how sharp he is in the proceedings earlier today. He missed nothing. In fact, his flawless performance very much reminded me of his father. Genshin Asogi, the professor. It's true that the aristocracy at the time was the root of numerous grave societal problems. They were abusing their power, playing with the common man as pawns in politics, in economics, in war. Just then, not now, everyone. Just back then. Definitely this doesn't happen now. All of the world's problems are now over, and this kind of thing doesn't happen anymore. In many ways, Asogi was carving out a canker from society that we British couldn't deal with ourselves. Ah, I see. But that's precisely why it makes no sense. Clint Van Zeeks was a noble and upstanding man. He wasn't corrupt. Why did that damned Nipponese have to go and take my brother's life? In spite of having once saved mine. He saved your life? How did that happen? Saving your life, baby, baby. It was 10 years ago on a foggy night. What was to be the professor's final strike had sent a wave of panic through the capital. The Clint Van Zeeks had already been killed at this point then. Genshin and I were walking down the back streets at a late hour. Of course, at that point, I had no idea of the true nature of the man at my side. All of a sudden...
Don't make a peep! You're coming with us!
Oh, he was a baby boy. We were surrounded. All of our assailants were armed with pistols, their faces obscured by scarves. Clint was not only from noble heritage, he was a brilliant prosecutor as well. The scum of London hated the sight of him, and they had no sympathy for his younger brother either. Look at that baby. I'd been targeted several times before already. Look at that ring he's got.
Yeah, it's Van Zeek's alright, we got him!
I could hear them murmuring amongst themselves. I knew they were after me. But just when I thought my time had come...
If I let them kill you, Clint would never forgive me.
I guess that's his voice. It was Asogi's voice, just a whisper in my ear. Bang! Excuse me. After that, I don't remember exactly what happened. The next thing I knew, there was silence all around. Genshin lay on the cobbled street. Blood was seeping from his left hand. He'd shielded me. 2 days later, they arrested him, on suspicion of being London's most notorious mass murderer ever. The professor. What if he wasn't the professor? Is that what we're gonna find out?
How awful for you.
That would be a lot of story sense, honestly. All at once, I lost the brother I revered and the foreign friend I held in such high regard. I'm so sorry, Lord Van Zeeks. Well, that's the end of my miserable tale. I never thought I'd recount it to anyone. Well, thank you for confiding in me and all of us, and a 10-year-old.
The Professor, the Reaper, and Inspector Gregson. I wonder just how intimately related they all are.
I still can't quite believe that Gregson was essentially the Reaper, giving assassination orders to Giselle Brett.
Mr. Naruhodo! Let's go and inform my father! I'm sure our government will want to hear about this new information!
Oh, that means I got to meet your daddy, Suzy. Hooray! Yes, alright, that's fine, whatever. Let's get back to the Great Waterloo Hotel then.
Let's do it.
Goodbye. See you never. Goodbye. Goodbye. See you later. Goodbye, goodbye. This poor guy is just still standing over here. He's never gonna get up to the room.
I thought it yesterday and I think it again today. This place is so princely.
It's a wild guess, but I have a feeling you'd think the same thing tomorrow, too. My tea has a finer fragrance than whatever they're serving in the tea room here, though, wouldn't you say? Ah, look who we have here. This is an unexpected pleasure.
Hello, do you like my hat? A lady?
Ah, Father!
Oh, is this your daughter, Suzy? How lovely.
What a charming young lady. And you are?
Uh-oh. Don't out us.
Oh, really? So you're the author of The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, are you?
That's me, Iris Wilson, at your service, sir. Suzy's been such a wonderful friend to me over the last year, you know.
Well, Miss Wilson, I must say I read your work regularly and with much interest.
Iris actually lives with Mr. Sholmes, you know, Father.
Is that so? Well, perhaps that goes some way to explaining that bright look in your eyes.
You wouldn't be smiling so airily if you knew just how bright she is, believe me.
Now then, young Naruhodo, it was a pleasure seeing you in action earlier. As an invitee at the symposium, I was allowed to observe from the gallery after I twisted some arms. I must say, it was a truly exemplary performance.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Though I'm fairly sure you omitted by Cosmo on the end there.
No, please don't misunderstand. It was you who impressed me.
Really? Everyone can read minds.
You didn't miss a step against Asogi, and we all know how capable he is. Really, to have matured into such a fine defense lawyer in less than a year is quite extraordinary.
It's very kind of you to say so. Really nice to hear.
What I saw in court today confirmed what I've been hoping for. The favor I mentioned yesterday, Naruhodo. I trust you haven't forgotten.
I forgot. I don't remember what he's talking about. Oh, no, did you mention something? You did mention something, didn't you?
But first, we have something to report, Father.
Of course, of course. Shall we make tea while we discuss matters further?
I wonder where Judge Jijoku has gone to. I don't know. Let's talk to him.
Father! When can I go out and be on my own? I want to do that. Do you know about the so-called Reaper of the Bailey?
I'd heard rumors. Some members of the judiciary explained it all to me yesterday. Of course, when I was a visiting student here in London, the Reaper was yet to emerge.
Right, he didn't appear until after the case when the visiting students had already returned home.
Lord Van Zeeks, who was in the dock today. That was Barrock, the younger brother of Clint Van Zeeks, I believe.
That's right, and he's known throughout London as the Reaper, as you've heard, but the truth is, it wasn't him behind all those mysterious deaths. It was somebody else.
I see. But what you're saying is there's been a professional killer at work here.
Exactly. Someone by the name of Asa Shin, in fact.
I beg your pardon. Did you say Asa Shin? You mean that Giselle Brett woman who's responsible for killing my great friend?
Oh no, a friend of yours was killed? Shut up. X-Day on the Illinkay. Professor Mikitoga, I think perhaps we shouldn't discuss this right now. Because the friend the professor is talking about is Dr. John H. Wilson. That's not something we want Iris to find out. We know, we've explained it. We are not stupid, game. Come on. We get it. We know.
I've just remembered something. Biscuits! This hotel has the most delicious looking biscuits.
That was rather out of the blue.
She's doing this deliberately.
I think I'll go and see if I can purchase some. I wonder, would you like to come too, Iris?
Ah, she's doing it funnily. Ah, yes! Just try, you just try to leave me behind. Ah!
So that young girl, it's called Iris Wilson, is she?
Yes, that's right.
She's the author of all those adventure stories starring the great Detective Sholmes. The name of the credited author isn't Iris, is it? It's Dr. John H. Wilson.
Yes, I know. That's the name of her father, you see.
Her father? Dr. John H. Wilson is deeply indebted to the man for all the kindness he showed me during my time in London. That's why I was keen to reciprocate and invite him to the Imperial Yume University 4 years ago.
But he was murdered last year by Giselle Brett. Why? Why would the hand of the Reaper stretch all the way to Japan? Iris knows nothing about that case, but it seems very likely that the victim, Dr. Wilson, was her father.
Well, can't say that we ever spoke about his family, so I don't know if he had a daughter or not. But I think I can say with some certainty that he was never the great detective's partner.
So, it could have been another Dr. Wilson, you think?
Well, John and Wilson are both common names after all. Still, it's probably best not to mention this to the young lady until we can be sure.
That's what we thought, yes. We're back with cinnamon biscuits! Oh, they smell delicious, Iris. Ha 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 ha. I think cinnamon will go very well with the tea they serve here, don't you, Suzy?
Yeah, whatever. That sounds fine. I don't care.
I haven't seen Judge Jijoku for a while, have you?
Guilty!
That guilt is still ringing in my ears.
No, now that you mention it, I haven't seen him since this morning, either. I suppose since the symposium's opening was postponed, he'll have gone to explore the great exhibition.
When they finally tell her, it's gonna be so awkward because they kept it from her for so long. It's so, like... I guess if they don't know for sure, like, I understand, I'm with them, but at the same time, now it's been a year. Like, I would be upset also.
That reminds me of something you mentioned yesterday. About Judge Jijoku having once been in the dock himself.
Ah, yes, it was all tied up with that accursed trial.
Lowe's trial of Kazuma's father.
Seshiro was trying to mitigate Genshin's guilt, so he took to the stand to testify. But he got a little carried away and actually managed to break the witness stand.
Oh my!
He also said some contemptuous words about the British Empire, for which he was charged.
Whoa, Anubis with the raid! Oh! Hello and welcome! How was Roblox? I've never played Roblox. I've never played it. What kind of game were you playing in Roblox? We're playing Great Ace Attorney. I hope you had a lovely time. Thank you for the raid. Oh dear, although it's worryingly easy to imagine him doing that. Well, it was all right in the end. He was acquitted and we returned home to Japan together. A One Piece game? Ooh, baby. I gotta read all of One Piece. I've gotten a quarter of the way through, and then I stopped. But I liked it.
Thank goodness.
Ah, yes, talking to Seshiro. I have a copy of the photograph we all took together here yesterday. Please.
I wonder if this will be important later.
Oh, what a lovely picture.
She looks so cute. Certainly seems to shout, we have arrived in Britain. Yeah, why not? Heck yeah, that sounds great, Anubis. That sounds fun as hell, baby. If you gotta do post-stream care, please, by all means, don't, you know, go have a food, go to the bathroom, do whatever you gotta do, baby.
None of us had any idea what was coming when we took that, did we?
No, that's so true.
What's the favor?
So, you mentioned a favor you'd like to ask me.
Well, this fateful trial that you're fighting. One way or another, it will be over before long. And when it is, I'd like you to accompany me back to Japan.
That was so... That was so perfectly timed. I can't start. Come on with that. Baby, come on. That request is so alarming that I farted. I tooted real good. You want me to... What?
Father! What is the meaning of this?
Now, Sasato, you should understand. You've seen how our courts work firsthand. Japan's judicial system is in its infancy, especially when it comes to defense.
Oh, you mean...
The Supreme Court of Judicature is in desperate need of a good defense lawyer. As soon as possible. Really quite urgently, in fact.
But I've not even been in London a year yet.
I've read all of Sasato's reports. I'm well aware of your extraordinary talents. And having seen you in action with my own eyes earlier today, there's no question. You, Naruhodo, are precisely the man our country needs.
So, you'll be living on runoff.
But then, what am I supposed to do, Father? I just got here.
You came here to serve as Asogi's judicial assistant.
Oh yes, she's supposed to be Kazuma's assistant.
Our government is still in the process of deciding how best to deal with this situation, though. You've always chosen your own path, Sasato, and I trust your judgment in this matter also.
Father!
Please, the pair of you, don't look so downcast. It's merely a suggestion, you understand. I hope, if I'm being honest, but I won't force you. All I ask is that you consider it, and come to a decision by the time this trial concludes.
Yes, alright, sure. Whatever. Yeah, you want to live like a brother? I don't know. The thought hadn't even crossed my mind. Up until now, I've just been trying to do what I believe to be Kazuma's will. But it turns out that he's still alive, so where does that leave me? You're always drinking a large glass of sweet tea. What flavor? Is it all the same flavor? I like my tea unsweetened, but I'm a simple cat boy.
Well, if you'll excuse me now, I need to telegram government ministers and the Japanese police with this information about Asa Shin?
Of course, Father. Thank you.
I look forward to next month's installment, Ms. Wilson.
Ah, God, please don't come to Baker Street sometime. Watch out. We'd love to entertain you.
I would be delighted. Okay, bye. Best of luck for tomorrow. Okay, bye. And give my suggestion your full consideration, won't you?
Yes, I will. Going back home?
You know, Kazuma-sama has always meant a great deal to my father. I'm sure he'd love the chance to meet with him and talk to him.
Wait,
I'm sure he'd love the chance to meet with him and talk to him about all of this. It's me, Sasato. Yeah, no doubt.
Ace of Shin. Of course, it's so obvious. Oh! How could I have neglected to consider the possibility before now?
Ah, Mr. Sholmes.
Hey, where have you been? Why, I joined you all for tea, of course. With the one extraordinary question.
I didn't notice you at all.
No matter, no matter. Anyway, no more pressing concerns. Mr. Naruhodo!
Oh, yes?
I must dispatch a telegram to your country at once. It is a matter of much urgency.
To Japan, you mean?
Tell me, to whom can I entrust the task? Quickly now, who?
Ah, well... My father has just now left to send a telegram to the Imperial Police Bureau of Japan himself.
I see. Well, he looked reliable enough for a bearded fellow. What does that mean?
I don't think what father sports could be considered a beard, Mr. Sholmes.
There's not a moment to lose. Kindly ask your trusty unshaven father to see this instead.
I will, but what is it?
No questions at this time, if you please, Miss Sasato. All we can do is pray that for once, my deduction is awry. Doesn't that imply your deductions are normally correct? Now then! They set him up. He's trying so hard to be cool. And that's all he wants, is to be a cool guy. And everyone's like, hold on, wait. I love this game. Now then! You may be surprised to learn that I am a very busy man. I certainly have no time to hide behind settees and eavesdrop on other people's conversations. So that's what joining us for tea meant. I leave the sending of this in your hands now, my dear fellows. Whoop. Ah, wait a minute, Mr. Sholmes. It just sort of ran off, didn't I? That's quite a pace. And left the unpaid bill for his tea behind, too. Japan Judicial says it must be in desperate need. If they're in dire need of someone who only studied English law for 50 days. He's been there a long time. He's been there like almost a year. He walks away, just toots with every step. That one background character is Slice of Life anime.
I must catch up with father at the telegram office at once!
And all right, call us a cab straight away! And there was me thinking everyone would be clamoring to pay Mr. Sholmes' bill. Alright. Okay. So, I do need to talk to Mr. Virgil. At Saint Sinners.
This is the ward when Mr. Vigil was brought, apparently.
To be frank, I'm a little worried about seeing him again. I'm still giving him the other voice. Ah, the lawyer. Hello again. He doesn't look like you should have this voice, but this is the voice I'm giving him.
Are you feeling better now, Mr. Vigil?
I just like this voice. Yeah, thank you. Somewhat better. I'm so sorry to have caused you to... I mean, it was because of me. If I hadn't exposed your secret and forced you to remember things you'd obviously tried to forget. The prosecutor was here until a few moments ago, too. You just missed him.
Oh, Kazuma beat us to it.
He said much the same as you. He was very apologetic. But the truth is, I brought all this upon myself.
Please don't think like that.
Stop. Keeping it from Evie, my wife, all these years, I've carried such a sense of guilt. But that's not the worst of it. Over time, I obviously came to deceive myself as well. Ow.
You mean about your dismissal?
Looking back now, I'm beginning to think that perhaps Inspector Gregson didn't stumble across me by accident at all. I mean, he compensated me so generously for acting as his stand-in. He was clearly concerned for my well-being and doing what he could to help.
Perhaps Gregson knew exactly what had become of Mr. Vigil all along, then.
I'm sure this is just desserts for 10 years of lies and deception, but... It wasn't me that helped the professor escape 10 years ago. It wasn't me. I swear it. I swear it's true. It's me.
Oh, Mr. Vigil.
I'm sure you'd rather not dredge up even more from your past at this time, but... Impossible! Could you tell us exactly what really happened?
I want to. I need to get all this off my chest. I just want someone to tell me what I should have done.
Well, I can do that. Gregson's request. I love this because Cosmo's pushing. Wait. Well, this is because Cosmo is pushing to force past Daly's trauma-based amnesia was really reminiscent of what Edgeworth does to Adrian in 2-4. Cosmo came to see Dally and apologized after. Man, I don't remember the second and third game very much. Except that there was a clown case in the second game. And then in the third game, there was an old lady named Bikini. I remember that. But it's been a while since I've replayed the second. I played the first game like a bunch of times. And I've replayed them all at least one, or the original trilogy at least once, but it's been years and years and years.
Inspector Gregson was obviously engaged in a special operation of some sort. He was investigating something that even Scotland Yard couldn't know about.
Details of the Reaper's marks, yes.
It was when he had to carry out those investigations that I would take his ID and impersonate him.
You'd pretend to be the inspector and carry out investigations on his behalf?
Oh, no, never. A common street peddler couldn't possibly carry out a proper police investigation. All I would do was go to the specified location and make a little hoo-ha. Just something to leave an impression so everyone would think a detective called Gregson was here.
So, that's what you were doing on the day prior to the incident?
Yeah, he asked me to make an appearance at the park on Lime Street for a Red-Headed League event. So, as usual, I flashed the inspector's ID around and was very vocal about my presence.
But then you were taken prisoner by those red-headed fraudsters.
Yeah.
So, you would always make a point of showing Gregson's ID and generally being loud?
That's what the inspector asked me to do, yes.
Well, that's one way of becoming a legendary detective, I suppose. Not a good one, though.
And as you know, I suffered this bruising around my neck at their hands. But the following day, they kept their word and released me.
Without returning the inspector's ID to you, however.
We had arranged to meet in the Fresno Street room at 5 that day so I could report back to the inspector. But at the agreed time, that's when I heard the gunshot. The gunshot.
Daily B's like, poses sadly, poses sadly, poses sadly, poses sadly. He's like voguing for depressed people.
It was at midnight on 17th June, 10 years ago. That was the time scheduled for the execution.
But the professor's execution never actually took place, did it?
Or rather, the execution itself must have been used to affect the plan of escape. I hardly dare to imagine what a chilling plan it was.
Barclay was renowned for being the highest security prison in the country. Everything that went in or out of the place was searched multiple times. But there was one notable exception, or rather one notable loophole, something that was never questioned.
I have a feeling I know what that loophole was now. The coffins into which the bodies of the executed convicts were placed, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Once the coroner had confirmed the death of a condemned convict, the body was taken in its coffin for immediate burial in Locate Cemetery, just behind the prison. Chief Warder was first to sign the necessary papers. And after all that, no member of staff was permitted to touch the coffin containing the body again. When executions took place, only the executioner and the coroner were permitted inside the chamber. And I would wait in the adjacent room for word that the condemned convict was dead. On that occasion, once I had that confirmation, I went into the mortuary to find a lone coffin as usual. The procedure was that I would sign the paperwork, having checked the coffin, then nail it shut. But for some reason that day, the coffin was already nailed shut.
No!
I tried to put Daly on the cover of Vogue, but his face was too sad. I need an awe sound effect, but instead we'll go...
I didn't think anything of it at the time. I assumed that my deputy must have checked the coffin and nailed it shut before I arrived.
So, you mean that coffin contained...
Yeah, I can only imagine that Asogi, having escaped his execution somehow, was alive inside the coffin. coffin was then taken through the main gates and deposited into Lowgate Cemetery.
Presumably, there wouldn't have been enough air inside to breathe for long.
So in the early hours following the burial, someone dug the coffin up again to set Genshin free.
But in the end, he was fatally shot in the graveyard anyway. What on earth really happened in Lowgate Cemetery that night, I wonder?
I'm afraid I really don't know, but all I can say with certainty are two things. That I look real sad. Asogi couldn't possibly have escaped that way without help from somebody working in the prison. And that somebody was not me.
Okay. Obviously, you knew the man then. The professor, I mean. Genshin Asogi.
Yeah, I remember him well, in fact.
Would you mind telling us what you know?
I would mind, I'm sorry. I don't like you guys. Well, having been condemned to death as he was, any contact I had with the man was short, obviously. After that trial, which was carried out behind closed doors, attended by only elite members of the judiciary, they called for his execution to be carried out at the earliest possible opportunity.
The outcome of the trial was set from the beginning, wasn't it?
It was a time of delicate diplomacy when Britain and Japan were in the process of signing an important treaty. Ow!
How dare.
That meant that that meant that this potentially destabilizing case had to be dealt with swiftly and discreetly.
The man had less than a week in total, and I was the chief warder. I oversaw his short stay in the cells until his final hour. I remember being struck deeply by his noble character and incredible resilience.
What do you mean exactly?
He was a killer of many men, but he was always quiet and polite. He was a gentleman and a man of intellect. In fact, I couldn't bring myself to believe what he'd done, so I asked him one day.
Whoa!
Those 5 members of the aristocracy whose lives were taken, were you really responsible?
I'm guilty of the unforgivable crime of ending another human's life, yes.
Following day, the closed trial took place and the verdict was no surprise.
Guilty.
That night when he was brought back into his cell, I saw something unusual.
Something unusual? What?
The last will and testament of Genshin Asogi.
What do you mean now? What are you talking about?
And as I said, it was on the night following his trial after he'd been found guilty. I was doing the rounds of the cells, and when I looked into Asogi's, I noticed that he seemed to have a sheet of paper in his hand.
Ah, that's his last will and testament then, presumably.
As soon as he noticed me, he hurriedly shoved it behind his back.
But why did you find that so unusual? Isn't it normal for a man to pen a will when he knows his death is nigh?
Yes, that's true, but there were special conditions to Asogi's incarceration, you see.
What sort of conditions?
Well, even though he was held in a cell designed for condemned inmates, he was allowed to keep his personal effects with him, with one exception.
Really? He was allowed his things? That is unusual, certainly.
Of course, he'd been convicted of killing 5 members of the aristocracy. But at the same time, he was a guest in our country from the Empire of Japan. The powers that be were determined that his final days shouldn't be needlessly uncomfortable.
And what was the exception you mentioned to the personal effects he was allowed?
That's the point. He wasn't permitted to have writing materials. Specifically, no pens or paper.
So, he was prevented from leaving any written record of what had happened to him.
Yeah, that was the long and the short of it. I have no idea where he obtained that paper. Any writing materials would have been confiscated from him upon his incarceration. And as I said, he hid the paper behind his back and then he pleaded with me. What did you decide behind your back?
Please turn a blind eye. This is my lifeline.
But you know it's against the rules.
Icy Soul, hello.
You're the only person who's seen if you just agree to keep quiet.
Alright then, but what's on that paper?
A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now.
How can a will be a weapon?
Where there's a will, there's a way. So I decided to pretend I'd seen nothing, and I let him keep his will. But then later, just seemed to vanish without a trace.
What? What do you mean it vanished? How?
It would seem that this isn't the end of the story of the mysterious will. It's a real will they, won't they kind of a thing.
The will's disappearance.
I was the only person who saw Sogi's will, but
somehow it disappeared.
it was after Sogi's execution.
Which was actually an elaborate jailbreak! She hasn't spoken in a while.
The warders gathered up Sogi's possessions that were in his cell. They were all to be sent back to his family home in Japan, you see.
Poor Kazuma-sama.
And you're saying that it wasn't anywhere to be found along his personal effects? The will, I mean.
That's right, though I didn't search through them myself. But Governor Caden was livid. He was screaming, it can't have disappeared completely.
That doesn't quite make sense, though, does it?
In what way?
Well, we understood that only Mr. Vigil was aware of the will's existence. In which case, how did the prison governor know how to look for it?
Oh yes, you're right.
I really didn't know how he knew. But it certainly seemed as though he knew of the will's existence from the outset. Only he didn't refer to it as a will. What he said was the Asogi papers.
The Asogi papers?
I really can't tell you anything of the subsequent events. Because, well, of what happened.
Your dismissal and the way you blocked it all from your memory.
I'd forgotten all this until today. I don't suppose it's relevant to the case, though.
Well, anyway, thank you very much for sharing it with us, Mr. Vigil. We're very grateful. Now, we're gonna leave you alone to just be sad now. Goodbye.
I'm afraid there's really little more I can tell you. My wife Evie will be here shortly. So I do hope I don't appear rude, but...
No, not at all. Thank you again. We have met your wife, however.
But what will become of you now?
Well, impersonating a police officer is a criminal offense, of course. I imagine that once I'm fully recovered, I shall be arrested.
I'm so sorry.
Don't be, please. This is all my own doing. I always knew that this day would come.
Well, I wish you well. Goodbye, Mr. Vigil. We'll never see you again.
Ah! Before you go, there's just one more thing.
Just one more thing. Yes, what is it? Oh my god. Calm down.
The Asogi papers. Be very grateful if you'd make no mention of the things I told you about them.
Presumably for some good reason.
It's my understanding that their very existence is a closely guarded secret. If it became known that I'd remembered, well, it could be rather troublesome, I think.
I understand. Some sort of will that Genshin Asogi penned just before his death, which the man himself claimed to be his last weapon. I wonder, perhaps it has something to do with his plan to escape. If there's anyone who might know more about a document that Kazuma's father left behind.
It would be Mr. Vigil's governor! And we know precisely where we must go, back to Barclay Prison!
They don't want us there, though. He's gonna be barking at us. He's not gonna like us at all, baby, baby. Gonna be so PO'd at us. That bird is too big for this cage. I really feel bad for this bird. It's been there 10 years! This is a 10-year-old bird, at least, at minimum. And it doesn't fit, and it can't grow. Stop. The way they set everything up in these games is so fun. You can see everything they're laying down since I know where it goes, and I'm foaming at the mouth. You're feral! You're feral! Man, I feel that way about a lot of things. A lot of things I rewatch. I want to rewatch. We have a friend who has not seen any Jujutsu Kaisen, and that isn't really a show that has kind of twists like this, right? But it is a show that like really believes. Probably a lot of you have seen it, but like, it really sticks with its own lore. It feels very, how to say, everything feels extremely planned out from the get-go. It doesn't feel like a regular sort of shonen where it's like, hey, we're figuring things out as we go. It feels like the mangaka has everything figured out already, and we're kind of like Oda with One Piece. I've heard a fair bit, but I've never seen it. It's really, really, really very good. I know it's a shonen, and shonens are kind of overhyped and popular at times. But I feel like we're in a really good renaissance for shonens that are excellent. And the way that that anime is now being distributed, with Demon Slayer and with Jujutsu Kaisen, both. They're very, very, very well done in a way that we don't really see that often anymore. They just sort of make as many episodes as need to be made for the arc, and then we have to wait a while, and that's fine. We don't get filler. We don't get any of that crap, and it's great. And then they can also kind of refine any rough edges that might have existed in the manga, if possible, right? But yeah, so like Jujutsu Kaisen goes all around the world. I know we're playing Ace Attorney right now, but it feels that way. So I want to rewatch it. We have a friend who hasn't seen it, and I might get to rewatch it to that end. But it do be pretty heavy sometimes, Gossamer. Just sort of keep that in mind. You got to watch the whole first season, which is a regular 25-ish or whatever episodes, and then the movie, and now season 2's airing right now. And it's all very, I don't know, intentional, and like it doesn't waste your time. I don't know, I just love it a lot. Hello, man whose accent I can't do very well.
Look, back again, are ya?
Yes, hello. What up? You're very large.
I've heard all about your investigations. I read the report just now. You found him, eh, Vigil?
Yes, luckily.
Well, anywho. The laddie doesn't work here no more, so your case is not to do with Barkley. I wouldn't like you to get the wrong idea about that.
Of course, yes. Mr. Vigil stopped working here 10 years ago now, so... Yeah, so we've sentenced this muscle notice, haven't we? He was given the chop!
I can make you kin very well. So, how about a wee handcuff biscuit?
Oh, they really are like little handcuffs and as hard as irons, too! No! A plot and port, yeah, so, there's, the movie, so it's hard to explain, but basically, the movie is a prequel, and the prequel has its own manga volume, so, it's like, they started writing it with volume 1, right, but then, at some point, they made volume 0, and volume 0 definitely does matter to the plot, but it's kind of its own sort of thing, at least for now. It hasn't like reconnected yet in the anime where I'm at anyway. But it's very cool.
So, what's brought you doing here today?
Well, there's something else we'd like to ask you about, actually.
Is that so?
We believe there might have been a document that disappeared from Genshin Isogi's cell. I think it's been called the Isogi Papers or something.
Did I not say Gregson's death is not to do with things that might have happened at Barkley? Leave the past in the past, laddie. Let's not further about with irrelevant details.
Norcat, hello. His expressions changed completely. We're clearly onto something here. Well, but I do have to talk to you about that. So...
That murderer's botched execution and the whole miserable escape. They were Barclay's darkest hour, aye, a shocking embarrassment.
Because the convict had a collaborator on the prison staff, you mean?
Aye, for shame. The coroner who confirmed the death of the man after his execution, Courtney Scythe. My chief warder at the time, Vigil, who was in charge of the whole affair.
He wasn't, though. But Mr. Vigil says that he didn't know anything about it.
The rascal wouldn't have said nothing otherwise, eh? More handcuffs.
Oh, how can I say no? You can never have too much iron. Come on. Come on! Daily asks Ryu to please not mention the Isogi Papers, and Ryu immediately does it. For good reason and all that. It really is. It's just like, we heard it. Where'd you find that out? Internet?
Mr. Vigil was handed his dismissal notice as a result of what had happened. He was so despairing, he jumped out of your office window, didn't he?
Excuse me. I didn't like to say, but that's just Vigil trying to get out of it. Do you not think he wouldn't jump from the shock of his crimes being exposed, eh? I do.
You wouldn't, nay, say otherwise, would you?
Of course, I kinda shun all responsibility myself. I shouldn't have let him deceive me. Actually, there's barely anyone that kens what went on at the time now. Well, Gregson had been murdered and Dr. Scythe forbidden from having any visitors.
No visitors. Somebody obviously doesn't want her giving anything away. Well, we're not going home empty-handed. Yeah, this guy is annoying. I like his biscuits, but...
And I wouldn't have dreamed of sending you back without... Now, Kimmer. Now, here, take a handcuff or two.
Oh, well, I wouldn't be around to say no, and I wouldn't want to become anemic. Stop.
I suppose if there's anyone who might still kin about what happened then. Be that last from the forensic division, Mariah Gorey.
Maria Gorey? Maria. Hold on a sec.
Aye, Scythe's daughter.
Scythe's daughter? Oh, wait, we met her. She was also, like, crazy. Hold on a sec. Wait a minute. Maria Gorey! Oh, my God. I knew it. Maria with a heart. I forgot if we met her actually or not. They were both, her mom and her daughter were both like goth queens or whatever. The teacup is so little. He is a very large man.
You didn't have no more, just the one. But the wee bairns followed in her mam's footsteps. You didn't see her without a scalpel in her hand.
Ah. Yeah, we met her for like a sec and she... Oh, yeah, we didn't see her face though.
Mama, what is this?
Ah, where did she spring from? Did she just call the doctor Mama?
Mama.
Dr. Scythe's daughter, Maria Gorey. We could do with talking to her. Gory, Gory, Gory. Isn't Gory the name of like a, Isn't that like an author? Like an old-timey kind of gothy authy, you know what I mean? We met her and she wanted to dissect us alive. Uh-oh. So she's Dr. Scythe's daughter, but her surname is Gory?
Aye, there's some family history, I'm sure, but I didn't ken the ins and outs about it. I grew up watching her mom work with the bodies of folks who died in strange circumstances. Decided to do the same with her own life. I can't understand it myself.
Mary Gore? Well, maybe I'm thinking of Gory. I don't know.
Perhaps she was driven by a deep respect for her mother.
Perhaps. Anywho, she was in charge of Gregson's autopsy, I believe.
Right, and the coroner responsible for this incomplete report.
One told me once that the wee lassie always loved her mom's stories of cutting up bodies. There's even a rumor that she used to listen to the funeral march as a lullaby. Stop.
Well, that's crazy. Well, then perhaps her mother might have told her about the autopsy of the case 10 years ago.
Aye, I say if there's a fighting chance at least. After all, that was a life-changing case for all of us.
We really need to speak to Miss Gory herself about this, I think. Well, thank you very much.
I'm not happy about any part of this. Took years for Londoners to finally forget the whole professor business. Can you not give up on this, laddie? Stop asking pointless questions.
I'm sorry, I don't like dredging up these painful memories for everyone.
And you know, just stay away now. Leave me alone and then come back here.
Well, we're not done talking to you.
How do you kin to know about that, laddie? There's not many folk here in the prison who have heard of those papers.
Ah, well, can't tell if Mr. Vigil told me.
I'm afraid our sources must remain confidential, sir.
We've been led to believe these papers are actually a last will and testament, is that right? The professor's, or rather Genshin Asogi's.
Aye, that's right. You're well informed, Jimmy.
Oh, is that the end of the silent treatment? What do you mean? You've been, what? What? You've been talking to us this whole time! But then after the convict's execution, it mysteriously vanished from his cell, didn't it?
Have us know you're off at the half-cock there.
Oh, shoot. Wait.
Think you didn't quite get your facts straight. It was there in the cell, exactly where it should have been.
Oh, not where we heard elsewhere. Not what we heard elsewhere.
Let me just have a wee hook around here. Sure, I can find it. Aye, here you are. See?
The last will and testament of Genshin Asogi, written with a calligraphy brush.
Of course, I cannot read a word of those Japanese squiggles. But I mind it says he leaves all his... I mind it says that he leaves all his worldly possessions to his son back in his homeland.
Yes, that's correct. That's the gist of it.
So these are the Asogi papers?
Aye, of course they are. Papers written by Asogi, no doubt about it. There's no mystery here, laddie. That's your lot. They're all the Stramash? That's... Sometimes a sentence has too many words that I don't know. Well, that slicer of an execution. We sent the man's possessions back to his clan in Japan, and that was the end of it.
I think we ought to make a record of this, Mr. Naruhodo, just in case.
The Asogi Papers. Can I read it? I would like to read the papers. I, Genshin Asogi, hereby request upon my death that any and all material possessions and wealth belonging to me in London be delivered to my son, Kazuma Asogi, in the Empire of Japan. It is with deep sadness that I accept my fate in this foreign land, in the knowledge that I will never see my homeland or family again, but I regret nothing about my chosen path. I thought there was a pixel in the game, but it was just something on my monitor. I wiped it off. Everything's fine.
One thing before you go on your way, Mr. Naruhodo.
Oh, yes?
Those papers are not to do with Gregson's death. Prefer if you didn't make no mention of them outside this office, or rather, I wouldn't just prefer it. I consider it an order from the highest levels of our government.
I understand. Well, but... Okay. Well, now what? That didn't really feel like the end. Oh, hello.
No arguments, Prosecutor Asogi. We will continue with the trial exactly as I instructed. Is that clear?
Perfectly. They kind of have the same voice, these two.
It's Kazuma-sama!
Fine, Lord Strongheart by the sound of it. He never did know when to back down.
I love how everyone just sort of rotates in this game. They just sort of spin on the spot, like... On your way now, Asogi. My lord.
My lord. Oh, wow.
What if I just change his voice at the end of the game?
Ah. Kazuma.
Not even a hello? What the hell? You left without saying a word. How rude. How impolite.
Yes, what are you doing here?
Oh, well, I was just hoping to ask you a few questions if you wouldn't mind.
I wanted Van Zeke's trial concluded today. But Prosecutor Asogi's unwelcome inquiries are going to make it take longer than necessary.
Unwelcome inquiries?
As a result, I'm losing even more precious time. Currently 2 hours, 59 minutes, and 41 seconds. 42, 43...
And we must resolve everything before 3 hours have passed, Mr. Naruhodo.
In a miraculous not even 5 minutes? Anyway, I can't let the man's obvious bad mood put me off. I need information. Bad thing to think about. Kazuma inherited his katana from his dad, and he always said the Japanese man's katana is his soul, so Genshin's body was buried in England, but his soul was sent back to his son. No! That is very tragic. Does Prosecutor Asogi believe that Lord Van Zeeks is the Reaper?
I wouldn't know. It was 10 years ago, in that fateful closed trial, that Lord Van Zeeks made a name for himself among the judiciary.
You tell him crazy sad about Cosmo all the time. What do you mean? What? Huh? Who?
But the next trial he fought, he lost. It meant the ringleader of the criminal organization was acquitted, thanks to all the jurors being under duress.
But that's awful.
The man's freedom was short-lived. He lasted just 3 days.
Yes, let me see. He died in a rock slide at his place of work, I believe.
Correct. That was the inauguration of the Reaper of the Bailey.
And people believe Lord Van Zeeks was responsible?
He was brought to trial himself, but it was shown to have been an accident.
Well, he must have had a solid alibi then.
Nevertheless, the mysterious deaths continued. In total, 16 persons perished in unusual circumstances, ostensibly at the hand of the Reaper. That's a long run of coincidences.
Well, the Reaper's true identity may well be revealed by this trial.
And the impact that revelation would have on the British public cannot be understated.
Is that why it's a closed trial?
Precisely. Excuse me. This country hasn't seen a closed trial for 10 years.
So the last one was the professors? The trial of Genshin Asogi.
Correct.
Actually, we heard that originally you were going to prosecute that trial yourself, Lord Strongheart.
Van Zieks entreated me to relinquish the prosecution to him, that he might avenge his brother's death. And here we are, 10 years later. With the son of the man Van Zieks had condemned, now looking to avenge his father's death in the same way.
They do say that what goes around comes around.
However, it would seem that the young new prosecutor is harboring some ulterior motive as well.
Kazuma is?
I like my organization to run smoothly in the exact manner that I prescribe. As with the giant clock in here, I won't tolerate a single cog being out of step with the others.
Ah, so that's what all these gears are about in here. Reaper looked at the kill count of the most notorious mass murderer in London and said, "You are like little baby, watch this."
The young man refuses to mesh with the other parts of my great machine. I will be forced to take steps.
What do you mean?
Not something with which you need concern yourself. In any case, all your questions will be answered tomorrow.
Are you sure?
Now, I have to ask you to excuse me. As of this moment, I've been delayed from attending my next meeting by precisely 3 hours.
Oh my, that is a long time.
And I hold you entirely responsible.
Even though we miraculously managed to fit everything into not even 5 minutes. I wonder if you might agree to us, talking with Prosecutor Asogi.
Discussions between the defense and the prosecution outside of the courtroom are generally frowned upon. However, I will make an exception in this case. Now go! You can find him in his office.
Oh, thank you. Bye. Goodbye.
Let's go to see him at once, Mr. Naruhodo.
Kazuma's my best friend in the world. We're just friends, for sure. But I'm really not all that sure I know how to talk to him at the moment. Well, let's figure it out. You just say one word, and then you say another word, and then you have a sentence, baby. Oh. Is this his office? It's just the prosecutor. Whoa, look how cute! So this is the office of Prosecutor Asogi now, is it? Oh, why were the tears so big for a second?
Kazuma-sama is doing so well for himself.
The bats! You know, he's always forced to kneel on the floor Japanese style in that dark corner.
It's his habit to sit Seiza style wherever he's working. Shut up! You're dumb.
Kazuma.
I thought it wouldn't be long before you paid me a visit, Ryunosuke. I was right about what I said, wasn't I?
Sorry?
That you have all the makings of a great defense lawyer.
Well, I always believed you'd fulfill your dream of advocating in the British courts. I just never imagined for 1 second that it would be as a prosecutor.
Seeing you stand in a foreign courtroom so gallantly, realizing your dream, Kazuma-sama, I am truly happy for you.
And I am truly thankful to you, Judicial Assistant Mikotoba.
Call her Sasato.
Ryunosuke. I always thought it would be fun for you and I to shake up the British legal system a little together. This isn't quite how I envisaged it, but I suppose it's just another twist of fate.
I've learned a lot of things during my time in London. About how Sasato-san's father was himself a visiting student here once, along with Judge Shijoku. And about what happened with your father.
Then you'll have no difficulty understanding why I had no choice, or why I had to find a way to get to Britain as a visiting student myself.
I want to hear it from you, Kazuma.
As you wish, Ryunosuke Naruhodo.
Wow, alright. With the formalities, baby. Tell me everything I want to know it, baby. It's getting on a year now since what happened on the SS Burya. We were heading across the oceans from Japan to Great Britain. When a bizarre series... There's so many typos in the second game. Please don't show me the picture game. The picture games! The picture again. Oh, the picture again. When a bizarre series of coincidences led to those tragic events. Just proofread it. You could patch in some typo fixing. I don't know. I thought I'd lost my best friend forever. You were dead as hell. Except you aren't, actually.
I must have been unconscious for a long time. When I awoke, I was lying on a bed. It was a narrow little room. There was a posy of flowers by the pillow.
How did that typo get past? It's crazy! That's what I'm talking about. It took me a little while.
It took me a little while to realize that I was in the cabin of a ship. I slipped out of the room and headed up onto the deck.
Were you already suffering from amnesia at this point?
Yes, I didn't know what had happened or where I was. There was just a voice in my head. You have something to do. Something no one else can know about. Go to Great Britain. Your task awaits you there.
It's very selective amnesia.
Wasn't looking, but I felt that in my soul. It was a calling I couldn't ignore. It compelled me relentlessly. Out on deck, I saw that I was on a huge steamship and we were docked in a large port.
It must have been Hong Kong!
Yes, it must have been. Presumably just before they were due to carry your...
Oh, it must have been presumably just before they were due to carry your body off the ship.
I had no idea of the situation, but I did have the feeling that this was in some way my last chance. So I concealed myself among the disembarking passengers and went ashore. Then I disappeared into the crowded streets of that foreign port city, so I could plan my onward journey to Great Britain.
We have so much to talk about.
Just under a year ago, with all my past memories lost to me, I was left behind in Hong Kong. Everything was foreign to me. The sights, the sounds, the smells. My head reeled. I was truly at a loss. I realize now that I'd escaped as a dead man, with nothing but the clothes on my back. No money, of course.
Oh, how terrifying for you.
Luckily, though, I had 2 feathers in my cap.
One being your knowledge of English, I suppose.
That's right, and on the back of that, I was able to pick up some work as a deckhand on a cargo ship.
Love the animations, how they flow into each other.
Eventually, after calling at countless ports, I finally arrived at Dover. There must have been some 3 months ago now.
Your formidable tenacity of purpose showing itself again. I mean, the man had lost his memory and had literally nothing to his name, but he still managed to make his way to London on the opposite side of the world.
Of course, I had no idea why I'd moved heaven and earth to get here at that point.
So how did you end up becoming Lord Van Zeek's apprentice then?
That can only be called an extraordinary stroke of luck, really. You see, I was stopped at the border because I had no papers. They took me straight to Scotland Yard. And by sheer coincidence, Lord Strongheart was there to attend a meeting. That's when the second feather in my cap came into play.
Would that have been your knowledge of the law?
Yes, exactly. Lord Strongheart was curious about an Easterner with intimate knowledge of British law. He took me back with him to the Supreme Court and assigned me to the prosecutor's office.
And then, 9 days ago, you finally got your memory back after the trial involving Drebber. He looks so cool there.
Yes, I did. That's right.
Ever since I first met you at Yume, you talked about your dream. I'm out of tea. That's not my dream at all. But I have water. Hold on. I forgot to cold brew tea last night, so I have my backup Ito N bottles. For just such an occasion. 9 days ago, you finally awoke your persona! Ever since I first met you at Yume, you talked about your dream. Man, that's another game I want to play. I want to play, Persona 4. But that's a big, long boy game. But, ooh-wee, I would love to play that.
Mark my words, Ryunosuke, I'll be chosen as a visiting student and make my way to Great Britain someday.
Did you know the entire time about what happened to your father here?
16 years ago,
he's a baby boy.
when my father left on that exciting trip to Great Britain, I was just a boy. Just a boy. We took a photograph together the day before his departure. It's my last memory of him. But what I remember most of my father is his unswerving sense of justice. And his cool sword, also. He had a very cool sword. 6 years after he left, a gentleman called at our family home. He told me that Genshin, my father, had been taken ill in England and passed away. It was Professor Mikatoba, your father, Susato-san.
Oh my!
Ever since then, the professor was very good to me. He even helped to fund my university education at UMA. I'll be forever in his debt. But nevertheless, I just couldn't bring myself to believe what he'd told me.
Oh!
Then one day, a letter arrived at our house from Britain. There was no indication of the sender, so I opened it assuming it was from an old acquaintance of my father. What I read in that letter changed my entire life.
What did it say?
Said that my father had been a mass murderer, and the writer cursed the Asogi name.
Oh no!
As a result of that letter, I found out what had been hidden from me all those years.
Letter from Britain, baby.
Presumably, the letter was sent from a relative of one of the victims. If whoever it was had been a member of the judiciary, he could have been present at the closed trial. The letter revealed that my father had been sentenced to death, executed for being a killer.
I'm so sorry you had to find out that way.
I imagine the British government did its very best to silence whoever sent that letter. But someone who knew the truth and couldn't bear the resentment was always going to be a problem.
But still, it could have been written by anyone. Why would you believe such a thing?
There was a newspaper cutting included with the letter. It was the first I'd ever heard of the professor and his terrible killing spree.
Well, what did my father have to say about the letter?
I couldn't bring myself to show it to him.
What? Why not?
Because he deliberately concealed the truth from me by telling me my father was taken by a fatal illness. That couldn't have been easy for him, and he'd done it out of consideration for my feelings. So instead, I showed the letter to Judge
Wow. Judge Jijo... Judge Jigoku. That's not that hard to say. I don't know why I had a hard time just then. That was a proper stumble.
To the other visiting...
Oh, the other visiting student.
He faltered for the briefest of moments, but then he just laughed the letter off. But in that moment, I saw it on his face. He was undeniably shocked, shaken momentarily before recovering his poise. A year later, my bereaved mother succumbed to the strain of grief, and she too passed away. That's when I made up my mind that one day, without fail, I would cross the seas to Britain and seek the truth for myself. The truth about my father, Genshin Asogi. And I wouldn't let anyone stand in my way.
Oh, Kazuma-sama!
What we learned today in court turned things completely on their head. It was an impressive piece of lawyering, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Your full name, my not boyfriend.
Wood Van Zeeks isn't the Reaper, you know. I almost don't want to believe it myself, but it turns out that Inspector Gregson himself, the victim, was...
It's clear that the Inspector was behind the Reaper's activity all along.
What? You mean you knew?
You knew?
Metal Gear quote.
The real question is, who's been giving orders to the Inspector? Yes, Barok Van Zeeks is the real Reaper. No. And I know that 10 years ago it was him who decided my father must be a mass murderer and sent him to his grave.
No, he was merely seeing that justice was done as the law dictates. He's not to blame!
Ultimately, it's people who condemn people. The law is just a tool that they use to do it. And when a man condemns another, he must take responsibility for his actions. Of course he must, but I know for certain that my father would never have taken another man's life.
Kazuma.
On the contrary, my father's life was taken by the Reaper.
Well, but... Oh, can I show them the Asogi papers? Kazuma, what do you make of this? You don't get to... Okay. Okay. That's fine, I guess. Whatever. Okay, that didn't feel like the end, but let's just go somewhere else. Where haven't we been? Maybe Sholmes is back. Nope. I doubt anything is gonna happen here, but let's just go here. Yeah, what to do?
Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo?
Just occurred to me that I might have forgotten something when we left this morning.
Please don't worry, as long as you continue to investigate thoroughly.
Oh, okay. Alright, thank you. I guess I haven't been back here. But I don't know if, no, there's nothing to do here. Yeah, okay. Beans. Well, let me pull up my handy dandy thing. Oh, okay. I see. So he lied to us. He led us astray. We do gotta present something to him. Therapy this morning, hell yeah! Well, you found out? Not a lot, really. Like, there's a lot of information just sort of clarifying things. Alright, I have to present the autopsy report of all things. This came up in the trial, didn't it? As something a little dubious, I mean. The fact that no time of death was recorded on Inspector Gregson's autopsy report. I don't know how we would know to present that to him, but okay. Yes, there were some unexpected turns in the courtroom earlier. The suggestion you came up with certainly took everyone by surprise. The idea that the victim died the previous day at some other location is quite something. Well, considering when the pocket watch had stopped and the scorch marks on the candle, certainly a distinct possibility. The evidence in the scene both point to it. To be honest, it bothered me too, so I paid a visit to the autopsy room earlier. The coroner responsible wasn't there, but I got a name. It's Dr. Gory.
If it wouldn't trouble you, Kazuma-sama, I'd very much like to speak with the coroner, too.
Of course, the last thing I want is for anything to be brushed under the carpet. Scotland Yard's autopsy laboratory is behind Lowgate Cemetery. Lowgate Cemetery? By Barclay Prison, you mean? Ah, you know it, do you? Prison where my father was incarcerated and robbed of his life.
Kazuma-sama.
Well, thank you. We'll pay a visit to the laboratory later today. Alright, bye. Ryunosuke, I want to thank you. What for? For this. You safeguarded the soul of the Asogi clan. Well, it is a famous sword that's been in your family for generations. Dr. Gory, yeah. My only slight regret is that I never got the chance to draw it before I returned it to you. Karuma is said to have been forged by a master swordsmith during the Sengoku Warring States period. I come from a long lineage of warriors, many of whom were expert swordsmen. Well then, you're a chip off the old block, I'd say. This blade, Karuma... why'd I say it like that? Is the symbol of the Asogi clan's honor and might. Apparently, one of my father's apprentices even took the blade's name for a surname. Really? Karuma? That does sound formidable, that's for sure. That's gonna be important. 16 years ago, when my father was a visiting student here in London, he had this sword forever at his side. Which is why it means so much to me that I have it by my side again now, too. And that is all thanks to you. It was an honor. Chum, best friend, boyfriend, best friend, we're just friends. We're just friends. Now I have preparations to make for tomorrow. Perhaps I said a little too much. Kazuma, you've changed. No, Ryunosuke, I haven't changed at all. It's you who's changed. I can completely understand your resentment of Lord Van Zeeks given what happened. But the fact is, those events in this case are, well... Unrelated? Is that what you want to say? How can you be so sure? What do you mean? Never mind. That man is the Reaper, and it's for that reason that the Inspector was killed. I'm going to prove as much in court tomorrow. By whatever means necessary. I can't let you do that, Kazuma, Star Fox. I know you'll do what you want, what you have to as a lawyer. But I'm sure I don't need to tell you that I won't be taking any prisoners in the courtroom. I would expect nothing less. Partner. Until tomorrow, then, in the Old Bailey. Confirmation of the Von Karmas. Is that Karuma? Oh, is that what it is? Seen that in The Undertaker from Black Butler. I generally wonder what Japan thinks of English views of death. What do you mean? Alright, let's go talk to Dr. Gory. Am I thinking of Edward Gorey? Is that like a guy? Is that a guy? Yeah, Edward Gorey's a writer. He wrote, he died in 2000. Yeah, hold on. Let me pull this up. Is this, make sure. A lot of pictures of him. Oh, yeah. He did this. He was the guy who did, like, this style of thing. Yeah. Yeah, now I remember. But that's Edward Gorey. This is so fun. Anyways. Garuba is Von Karma's name in Japanese. Arr, okay. Man, it's rough. I wish they... I understand it's a real Final Fantasy 2 and 3 and 4 and 6 kind of situation, but like... where they're like, how do we localize this? But, it would be real nice if we were able to put... Because, like, if I didn't know... Just anyway, I wouldn't have any reason to believe that Naruhodo is Phoenix Wright's descendant, right? I know that because I looked it up later. Yeah, Edward Gorey is a fun... Oh, look, what? It's so cute in here now. I want all of these. What are you talking about? This place really is creepy, isn't it? Well, being a dead room, it's probably full of the spirits of the dissected.
But actually, there's a rather pleasant scent of roses in the air.
Well, being a dead room, the coroner probably needs a bold scent like that to mask the odor of death. Iris, do you think we could change the subject?
Shink, shink, shink.
What? What was that noise? Oh my god. Hello. Dr. Gorey? How creepy can I make her?
What?
That noise before.
I was sharpening my tools. I'd be dead meat if I didn't keep a perfectly keen edge on them.
Right.
When following the collagen fibers in the dermis, an expertly sharpened scalpel cuts like cheese. Would you like a demonstration?
Oh, yes, please. I'd love to say.
Then, I think you'll do nicely.
Huh? No. No, I wouldn't do nicely at all. That's a really big scalpel, I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, maybe some other time. Was that a tut? Well, we came here to ask questions, so... Oh my god. We have actually met before. I'm a lawyer, if you remember.
You're not dead yet.
What?
So Mama said I wasn't to cut you open. She's so strict about things like that.
Well, good. Dr. Scythe has some scruples, at least. Up there! It looks like she's not interested in talking to us for the time being, anyway. For the time being, you mean until we die? I hope there's a way. I hope that's a way off. Sorry, but I wasn't planning on dying anytime soon. Surely there's some less drastic way of making her listen. I guess let's try presenting the autopsy report, I guess. Dr. Gorey, we actually came here to ask you about this.
He was very good.
Good? Sorry?
His skin didn't snag my blade once, and very little mess. His joints dislocated easily, and his muscle tissue was a pleasure to work with.
Wait, we can skip those details. But there is something about the report that's caught my attention. You don't seem to have recorded a time of death. Oh! Oh, she's... Come on. What do you mean? What do you want from me?
That's not my fault.
Oh, that made me jump.
Then please, tell us what happened.
Since I scruples, you aren't allowed to kill someone who isn't blackmailing you. So why doesn't this autopsy report include the victim's time of death then? It's really the most crucial detail.
Stop. I was told not to write it.
She's so cute. Come on. What? By whom?
Male Strongheart, the Lord Chief Justice. He came here.
Lord Strongheart came? What? What? He did what? He did what now? He what? He did what? He what? He did what? He what? He did what? Huh? What? Strongheart did what now?
He said that from the witness statements about the gunshot and the other evidence, it was obvious. The man clearly died at 5 p.m. on 1st November, when the gunshot was heard.
But that's not the time of death you wrote in the report. You didn't write anything. Was there some reason you didn't include it?
Dr. Gory, if you're hiding something under Lord Strongheart's instructions, then sooner or later you're gonna go the same way as your mother.
Give it here, then.
Did Gory's cute face... No! I didn't do... The game did that. What's she scribbling so furiously?
There.
You've written... What? What's she written? Tell us! Indeterminate. But the details of the autopsy report have been updated. Gory indeed.
Determinate.
What do you mean by that? Why is the time of death indeterminate?
When the specimen was brought in, it was still fresh, so the time of death could easily have coincided with when the gunshot was heard. But there was one small discrepancy.
What discrepancy?
There was some fried fish in the pocket of the specimen's overcoat. And that fish had started to rot.
What?
The victim liked fried fish. He presumably liked to eat it before it went off.
Well, yes. What are you really trying to say?
It's possible that someone tried to manipulate the apparent time of death.
Manipulate the... Is that even possible?
Theoretically, if you were to chill the body in ice, you could delay the onset of putrefaction. And if the overcoat wasn't on the body at the time,
then only the fish would have started to rot. That's why I love her. She's like, I will not be corrupt. Give it. I'm fixing it. I love her. I hope we get more of her, please. Oh my god.
With today's science, it's not yet possible to determine if the body was chilled or not.
Today's science is advanced enough to let you freeze a corpse, it seems.
But surely, to chill a corpse like that would require an enormous electrical refrigerator. I don't imagine any households in London are equipped with such a device.
No, definitely not. But maybe in a factory or some other special places.
I don't recall seeing any factories or such like on Fresno Street, though. I wonder, if the inspector's body had been chilled somehow, what might the actual time of death have been?
I couldn't say for sure. But at the most, it might have been a day earlier.
No.
In other words, it would corroborate your previous deduction, Mr. Narod. That Inspector Gregson was killed a day before his body was discovered at a different location.
Did you inform Lord Strongheart of this possibility?
He simply said there has been no electrical refrigerators of that side in the vicinity.
Well now. Ow! Oh yes, one other thing. It's something the governor of Barclay Prison told us. He said that your mother, Dr. Scythe, was responsible for confirming the death of the professor after his execution.
The professor.
Apparently you always enjoyed listening to your mother's stories about her work, so we were wondering if you might know something about what happened 10 years ago.
That's not all Mama did.
Sorry?
My Mama carried out the autopsy of Clint Van Zeeks as well.
What? Really? The brother of Lord Van Zeeks, the prosecutor's final victim.
The idea of carrying out an autopsy on a member of the aristocracy was completely unthinkable back then. But the detective in charge of the investigation insisted, and it was miraculously authorized.
That detective being Inspector Gregson, of course.
Quite an accomplishment for one man.
That autopsy provided the vital clue needed to arrest the killer. And Mama was there for that historic event.
What does all this mean?
You know, that amazing autopsy happened right here in this very room. The professor and Clint Van Zeeks.
Malric, hello, welcome, welcome.
They spent their final moments before their burial on that dissection table there. So this lab, Mama's lab, was instrumental in some of the country's most important events.
She really is proud of her mother. This voice doesn't match when she takes her mask off, but listen, she's creepy. I wonder if you tell us more about exactly what happened back then, Dr. Gory. Maybe I can make her a little more like I'll try and make it a little lighter.
The professor's execution was Mama's first big case.
She smokes a lot.
She had to be in attendance at Barclay Prison's execution chamber and signed the certificate to confirm the convict's death. Mama is the best coroner in the world, you know. I was so proud of her.
But the execution didn't actually take place.
No, and worse still, Mama actually helped with the jailbreak.
It was fine until she brought up the big knives. She's creepy.
I didn't want to know.
Wait, didn't want to know what? Oh, she helped with the jailbreak.
I didn't want to know.
Oh dear, you found out recently, you mean?
She's so goth, I love her.
I believed her in Mama, but now I wonder if I'm starting down the same path as her.
You mean because you omitted the time of death on this autopsy report? But that's because Lord Strongheart forbade you from including it.
Just like Mama, I'm sure she was coerced by somebody too.
Mommy Dearest. Excuse me. Yes, that's my feeling as well. Ugh.
There's no doubt that there were powerful forces at play 10 years ago. The execution couldn't have been staged without a lot of people at the prison knowing about it. Obviously, the prison governor must have been in on it as well.
That big man with the little handcuffs, according to what he told us. He was tricked by the chief warder. He says he knew nothing about it. Very upset that you can't dissect us alive.
Of course he said that. I'd say the same thing.
Just who was behind that jailbreak all those years ago? Tell me. Tell me now. Tell me right now. You mentioned the autopsy of Clint Van Zeeks.
It was at a time when carrying out autopsies of murder victims was very unusual.
We should write her down as a fun cosplay. Maybe. Cozy likes doing cosplays that are near and dear to her heart. She could pull off any cosplay she wanted, certainly. Because she's so dang cute, Cozy. But, Gunsling, hello. But, she likes watching me play these games. But, like, I don't think she'd ever play these games herself, right? But she would knock it out of the park, for sure.
I will keep us safe.
It's still not a practice that's observed in our country even now.
It turned out that he was the professor's final victim, and when the autopsy was performed, Mama was present, although only as a secondary assistant. The person leading the procedure was called Dr.
John H. Wilson! That's right, my daughter! I love making her so excitable.
And there was one other person present, the primary assistant. He was a visiting student from the Far East.
Wait, a visiting student?
It must have been my father, Eugene Mikotoba.
I had no idea Professor Mikotoba had been involved in something so important.
But the outcome of that historic autopsy was the discovery of a vital piece of evidence that led to the capture of the professor.
God! Stop. She's so cute. What do you mean? What are you saying to me right now? What do you want? What do you want? Look at her! What do you want from me? Are you kidding?
So that's how they came to identify Genshin Isogi as the infamous mass murderer.
How? Like what? Do you happen to know anything about that piece of evidence? Can you tell us any more? How old is she? Like how? Like how? She was 9 when this happened. Like, why was she like? She was like cool to just be in here at 9 years old.
Oh, that's funny.
Can you tell us any more?
I was 9, you idiot. Whoa! Would you like to see the records for yourself?
What would that be all right?
What's the point in keeping records if people can't look at them? They're filed under V at the back of those cupboards.
Is that how you spell? That is how you spell cupboards. Cupboards is a weird word.
With the other records from the last decade.
Thank you. Let's see. Van Zeeks. That's strange.
What, Mr. Naruhodo?
They aren't here. There's nothing under Van Zeek's.
There must be.
Perhaps somebody took them away.
No, no one's allowed to take documents related to the professor case out of this room. But you're right, they're gone.
Well, when was the last time somebody looked for them? Do you remember?
It was... Oh yes, she looks so annoyed. I remember now, it was 2 years ago. A consulting detective came one day saying that he'd like to see the records.
No, you don't mean...
Herlock Sholmes was his name.
Deep down, I knew that was coming.
Do you think he stole the records?
Oh no, certainly not. Iris, that can't be right. Cute.
I don't know, I'm 10. Iris? Cupboards and we keep our cups behind these boards? Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Reno? I hope you don't mind, but... What is it, Iris? I've just remembered something very important I have to do. I'm gonna have to leave you now. Bye-bye.
Oh, this is very sudden, Iris. Well, we'll come with you then.
Oh, no. You and Reno can take all the time you need. Bye for now. See you never. Woo.
Wait a minute, little girl.
Huh? Meh?
I remember now. You've been here before, haven't you?
Ah! Have you, Iris?
Yes, 2 years ago when that detective came. You were with him, weren't you? You were a living specimen then, too.
That's the way it usually works, yes. Was I really don't remember. Anyway, sorry, but I must dash. Wait, Iris. I'll brew up a pot for you when I get home. What's the matter with her? She's behaving really strangely all of a sudden. Well, in that case, we won't keep you any longer either.
It's been quite a while since I had any visitors. This was really fun. But next time you come, I'd prefer if you were ready for dissection.
Can't make any promises, sorry. It's a bit strange that the records of Clint Van Zeek's autopsy have disappeared. But I think we've asked all we came to ask now. Okay, I do want to examine all the stuffed animals, though. Please. Let's have a closer look at this. Oh! Then again, let's not. Okay, alright. Okay, let's go home? I don't know. Yes. No, let's not go home. Okay, I guess I need to go to the Fresno Street room. Now. Bye, Maria. See you later, maybe. I hope so. Sheesh. Police are still busily investigating in here, then.
But Gina's nowhere to be seen. Where is she?
Yes, it has been blissfully quiet, hasn't it? Perhaps she's out investigating on her own, practicing what her boss told her. Crimson, hello. I didn't see that was you.
Well, I expect she'll be back before too long. Shall we wait?
Actually, there's something different about this room since the last time we were here, isn't there?
We could always use time to investigate more thoroughly.
Well, there wasn't a trunk on the ground before, that's for sure. I think. I'm pretty sure. This little trunk wasn't here before, was it?
Oh, it appears to be made of metal. It must be very heavy. I wonder to whom it belongs. There's some initials on the outside. Look, TG.
That's one of the policemen if they know how it came to be here. Oh! What do you think you do? Is that Gina? Hi! I love you.
That's my trunk. It is. Hands off. Gina!
But what? Why? Where were you hiding?
I don't know. You leave something unattended for a few seconds, and every dumb dick and Harry's got greedy eyes on it.
Just a wild guess, Gina, but...
What? Spit it out, out.
Is it fair to say that you've only owned this trunk since this morning's trial?
What? What are you trying to say? Come on, this trunk goes with me everywhere. Always has.
So where have you been the last year? Trying not to incur your wrath, mainly. What do you mean? Oh, oops. Converse, the boss.
You should hear them talking at the yard now. They should be ashamed of this themselves. They're saying that it was the boss who killed all them bludgers.
Ah, you mean the whole Reaper thing?
Yeah. Apparently the boss was investigating stuff that no one else at the yard knew nothing about. Stuff to do with all them criminals what got off scot-free.
Yes, the ones prosecuted by Lord Van Zeeks who used bribery and corruption to evade conviction. She turns her head so sad. She's like, oh. She said, oh.
Well, obviously it was the bloomin' Reaper giving the orders, won't it?
I got a little heart on my shirt. Baby. Boop, 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 boop. She angry.
Well,
Why would people be suspecting Inspector Gregson of being involved in the killings?
There was a notebook hidden in his office.
Oh no, this doesn't sound good.
It had details about all the crimes that have been pegged as the Reaper's work.
What?
No! Did you see it, Gina? Did you see the notebook? They wouldn't. Blame and let me, because I'm an apprentice apparently, but it was me who found it and it was my boss. That's right! I was pretty miffed about it, so I sneaked a peek at what it said anyway. Oh!
That's our Gina. What did it say now? Boop, 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 boop. So, you managed to see what was written in Gregson's secret notebook anyway, did you?
Well, I'll see it. It's my right to read what he wrote. And what had he written, Gina? Tell us! Oh my god! Dates, times, places, names. The whole long list of them. All details about the bludgers supposed to have done in by the Reaper.
You're so valid, Gina.
But there could be an explanation for that. Perhaps it was a record of the inspector's investigations into the Reaper's activities. Exactly! That's what I said. That's the first thing you'd think, right? As it happens, it was full of names I recognized anyway.
Well, the Reaper's targets were almost exclusively known leaders of London's criminal underworld.
Well, yeah, but there was one name right at the end of that was a bit odd.
At the end of the list, you mean?
I'm pretty sure the date against it was 31st October. Oh, the day before the inspector was found dead.
So, what was the odd name?
It wasn't like a name I've seen before. It was something like, Nah, it's no good. I can't remember it. I don't think it was an English name, put it that way. Oh dear, what a pity. There was something else too. I don't know if it matters, but the same name kept coming up over and over. Shin, it was. Don't suppose it means anything, but...
Why would you assume that? Did you say Shin?
Eh! What? Was it mean something?
Lord Van Zeeks knew the name too. He mentioned her as well. The woman who actually did the deeds. And now we find out her name appeared in Gregson's secret notebook. Secret notebook. Hello, Crimson, back at it again. Yes, I have heard about the Russian president. I know that he existed. There's a picture of him. So, like, he's a terrible, awful, horrible human being, right? But, like, there are a lot of funny pictures of him. Like, he's shirtless riding a horse. It's very funny. Wait, let me find it. It's very funny. Yeah, oh my god, it's so funny. Because he's, like, not a cool-looking dude, right? We're not gonna scroll, I think, but, look at all these. He's like, I am a cool dude. It's me, Vlad. Oh, Vladdy Daddy. And it's just supposed to, like, make people think he's a cool guy, but he's not. He's Vladimir. I thought I'd try anyway. Got you, hello. Did you guys hear the news? My friend used to have that as their profile picture. On, like, Messenger or whatever. They're really funny. They're just propaganda stuff, you know what I mean? You're in a pile of 10 blankets. That sounds incredible. Wide meme. I haven't seen that one. We haven't seen you for a little while, have we, Gina?
Well, of course not. I've been busy, aren't I? Investigating in that. The lads at the yard are trying to trace the boss's movements the day before it happened.
The day before? That would be the undercover investigation into the Red-Headed League, then.
Only the boss didn't go, did he? You found some cove what was pretended to be him, didn't you, Odo?
Your W key just broke in half? You be aggressively WASDing. Yes, it was Mr. Vigil who actually went to the park on Lime Street that day, posing as Gregson. I'm sure he's not going to be involved anymore, but I wish he was, because I like reading his voice. Putting himself in jail. Stop like a gremlin. Oh, no. Oh, no. I want to get a mechanical keyboard. I've been wanting one for a long time, but it's very intimidating, and also expensive. So I have not done so. But there are these keys on Amazon. They're probably cheap little keycaps, but they're like a purple gradient. They go like from kind of light purple to deeper purple, like from bottom to top. And it's gorgeous. And I was like, what if I got a mechanical keyboard that had that? But I also need a 100% keyboard because I need all the keys for editing. I would be having a hard time if I didn't have the 9 key. And most people that have mechanical keyboards, they want a smaller keyboard. And I want a full keyboard. Oh, it's a laptop keyboard. No! Oh, that's hard. You can't fix that. I'm sorry. Well, I mean, you could fix it, I guess, but that's a lot harder to fix. Oh, no.
Well, anyway, you ain't the only one turning stuff up. I got me own ways of getting results. Like this dog. Look at this dog. When me and the partner get together, there's nothing we can't track down. Oh, little Toby, he's such a faithful friend.
So, have you tracked anything down then?
What do you think, eh? Of course we have. Can't tell you though, police business, isn't it? Anyway, the point is, if you lot ever need any help, you know who to turn to, right? Me and the Hellhound here.
Right, because he looks so hellish. Oh, so hellish, honest. The Hellhound. I could fix it, but it's not worth it. Oh, man. It's tragic. Gina, about your Hellhound there.
Chief Inspector Toby, you mean? He's the pride of the force, he is. Japanese police dog means something quite different, though, and not altogether nice to those involved in crime. And here in Britain, it's a wonderful compliment, it seems, for a canine at least.
It should be, after all, in the great exhibition case the other day. It was Toby here who managed to locate Drebber's workshop.
Maybe it's time for another demonstration of what this super dog can do, eh?
Do we have something the Chief Inspector could... Oh. I mean, maybe the watch was his if we're trying to track his... Oh, shoot. Let's try that, I guess? I don't know. Well, Chief Inspector Toby, if you wouldn't mind having a sniff of this. Sniff, sniff, sniff. Might be a little too keen, don't you think? Aroo! Ah! Well, that worked, I guess. Chief Inspector made short work of Gina there. Woof! Ah, look what he's gone to.
Oh my, the trunk clearly still has this very strong scent. Of Inspector Gregson!
In other words, it must have belonged to him.
Oh, alright, it's a fair cop, I suppose.
You nearly got away with it, too.
You always talk so proudly of Chief Inspector Toby's nose and what it can achieve. Did it not cross your mind that he might identify something that was right next to us? Yeah, that was a bit of a bloomer, weren't it?
That's enough now then, Gina. I think it's time you told us the truth about that trunk. Dog just came and stole some of your blankets. No, you do have 10 though, so... I'd give a dog 2 of my blankets if I had... Even if I only had 2 blankets, I'd give the dog both of them.
It weren't like that, it just weren't.
What are you talking about?
I know what's going through that head of yours, but that ain't what happened.
Alright then, what did happen?
Well, like I said before, we were trying to trace the boss's movements. So I let Toby have a whiff of the boss's overcoat. And as soon as I'd done that, he went off like a shot. Straight to that sandwich.
Sandwich? To a sandwich? Not to a bag of chips?
So Naruhodo, I believe Gina means the witness.
Oh. Oh, I forgot about that sandwich.
Yeah, he had it hidden between them wooden boards of the boss's trunk.
You mean when they heard the sound like a gunshot and all piled in here?
Exactly! He nabbed it from the scene! Goodness! Me, the chief inspector gave that sandwich a good grilling, and you know what he said?
I thought it might fetch a good price and the chap wouldn't be needing it anymore, so... But that's all I did, nothing more, nothing less.
Would you Adam and Eve the cheek of it, stealing the dead boss's stuff to flog?
But Miss Venus wasn't the only one to meddle with the scene of the crime then.
How could they? So anyway, that's how it happened. And it's a pretty decent trunk, so I figured it might as well make use of it. Is there something wrong with that, eh? Well...
I'm gonna take a nap under my blankets. Hell yeah, have a lovely nap, can you? Maybe you and Mr. Sandwich should try to find the answer to that question together. She's so angy. So angy. Do Mahler really quick for some things. Took so much effort not to buy PJ onesie. Jack, why? Just buy it. Just get it. That sounds great. Buy yourself a little treat, you know? What are you gonna do? Not get yourself a little treat?
I think perhaps that trunk should be turned over to the police, don't you? What are you on about? I am the police!
Gina, if you wouldn't mind, we maybe examine it?
Yeah, alright then. Do what you want with it. Thank you! Let's look at it. Oh my god.
Uh-oh. What's the matter with Toby? Why is he acting so aggressively towards me all of a sudden?
It's in our hoe to be careful. It must be the trunk.
Oh! Oh my god. What the hell?
Toby, oh, what are you doing? You're gonna lick his face off. Mr. Naruhodo, Mr. Naruhodo! Gina, quickly, hail a carriage.
What? Really? That little puppy hurt me? Flipboard screen, you died. Try to be good with spending. It's a little treat, though. You have a second bank account for little treats, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Mr. Naruhodo, are you alright?
Do I... Do I get to look at it? Ooh, that's serious. Have you seen this huge gash across the side here? It's gone right through the leather and into the metal behind.
Gosh, it's for a metal chest to have, like this to have been so badly damaged. Whatever made the gash must have struck the side of the trunk with considerable force.
Wonder how it happened. This isn't... Oh god, there's blood too. Forget about it. Look at this dark stain here, do you think?
Yes, I'm afraid so. I think it's blood.
I knew you were going to say that, so that presumably means...
This was present at the scene when Inspector Gregson was killed. It's the most logical conclusion, yes.
I think Gina's been carrying this around with her. You didn't know any better. I suppose it does look like a grease stain from all the fish and chips. And I open it. Let's have a look inside. Whoa! Look, there's something inside.
Oh, let's see. It appears to be a passport authorizing him to travel overseas.
Inspector Gregson about to go on a trip abroad then?
Perhaps the date of the departure might...
He told us this.
Oh!
What is it?
It was for travel on 31st October, just one day before the incident.
It was one day to retirement. What, really? Okay. Gregson went to France the day before... He went to France the day before his body was discovered? Oh. That's interessante. And then, yeah, what is it? It's a sword blade or something. Do you see that? There's something stuck in the side of the trunk here. It's glinting.
It looks like a fragment of metal of some sort, but it's wedged so tightly I can't remove it.
Well, don't cut yourself. You better leave it, I think. Okay. Well, that's pretty crazy. What is in the top there? Okay, cool. So we learned some stuff about the trunk. Within 1 week. In 1 week. Port of Dunkirk. Permission for the applicant and 1 additional person to travel. Oh.
Mrs. Sato.
Oh! Ah, conscious again at last. A blessed relief, my dear fellow. After all, to drop dead after a moderate licking by a small terrier, most unseemly.
What is or isn't seemly is irrelevant here, Mr. Sholmes.
Oh, I love Sasato's little desk. I don't think I ever noticed that.
I'm so glad there's no lasting damage. How are you feeling?
I'm fine, thank you. Did you bring me back here? Ah, what's this on my head? A bandage? Sadly, we had no ice, but that's a compress of sugar water. Sugar water?
Don't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. It's first aid treatment that my father taught me.
Oh, thank you. Sugar water? So, let us take tea when you're feeling up to it. But of course, there's no sugar in the patient's cup. The bump on my head is throbbing sweetly enough. Don't worry.
Hee! Whenever you feel ready, then.
Oh, I'm ready, baby. What to do? Alright, Hairlock. Thank you for your concern, Mr. Sholmes. My dear fellow, think nothing of it. I must say I was quite startled when I heard that you'd been attacked by a dog. For a moment, I feared the infamous murderer of so many had come back from the dead. You mean the professor? Fortunately, I see your prize throat is unscathed. That stiff, turned-up collar of yours obviously afforded that welcome protection. Was I that close to death? All I really remember is that dog licking my face over and over and over again. Well, if you wish to avoid such troubles in the future, a little mustard spread on the cheek should do the trick. Yuck. I should think that would balance the sweetness of your bandage rather splendidly. Yucky, yucky. Oh, wait. What a fun little desk of hers. Am I not supposed to be here?
My desk is just as it was before I left. Assuming ink and
a calligraphy brush, even though we're in England now. That strikes me as typically you, Mrs. Sato, and typically not you at the same time.
Well, I do enjoy all the wonderful new things that come out in the West, and the cultural evolution, of course. But I'm not ready to give up my brush just yet.
And anyway, Sasato-san can write more neatly with a brush than most people can with a pen.
Practice makes perfect, as they say.
Okay, I guess we need to move to Sholmes' suite? Yeah.
Mit dem Schwarzbiergebot brodelt wie ein Feuerberg, den Schlund es mir verbrannt, ach Hopfen deine Wut.
What on earth is going on in here? Am I having a bad dream? Ah, no, it's an old German folk song. A rather fine rendition, I think. That's the least of my concerns.
Iris?
Iris, what's the matter?
Who is that sprawling, relaxed gentleman over there?
Iris, is she even listening? Excuse me, sir. I do apologize for troubling you whilst you're singing so merrily, but would you be kind enough to explain the situation? Oh, is he dead? Uh-oh. Well, that worked. A crooning gentleman and a mute young girl, a rather tantalizing juxtaposition, and one that appears to have incited the gods of deduction within me to find their voices too.
Mr. Sholmes, do you mean...
No, hold on a sec. Do we really have to go through a whole thing? The strains of reasoning with me are playing now as a delightful duet. One melody sings of a reunion full of nostalgia, whilst the other is a morose theme about the great secret you're trying so desperately to conceal, Iris. Just turned as white as a sheet. Suddenly the genre has shifted into horror.
So as usual, you've instantly seen to the very heart of the matter.
And by the time my own brief performance is over, I feel sure this gentleman's song will reach its finale. So then, to Music Land, where all this sweetness and delicacy... and harmony. Okay. Pray do enjoy Herlock Sholmes' latest logic and reasoning spectacular. Twitch Enjoyer, hello. Oh my god. Man's identity. I mean, just look at him. What do you mean? It's just that mustache, baby. It's just the mustache. Firstly, we consider the gentleman's nationality. Clearly, he's a German with no grasp of the English language. As evidenced by the dramatic song he sings and his apparent inability to understand when asked to detest. He's an idiot. So why is the man here at all and in such apparently high spirits? The answer, of course, Iris, is clearly known to you. Indeed, we need only follow the gaze of those bright, young eyes to unravel that particular part of this mystery. I'm doing great. How are you doing? The reason for the man's mildly irritating warbling is revealed by the herbal tea. Megan Lunch, hell yeah. You obviously offered our German guest a cup of your latest herbal blend. The tea's delectable flavor has made the man's spirits soar and resulted in this joyful ditty tumbling incessantly from his lips. I eagerly await sampling the flavor myself that I may join the fellow in his state of elation. Now to the next question. Who exactly is the gentleman availing himself so thoroughly of the said tea? As it happens, a number of years ago now, a certain gentleman of German origin engaged my services in solving a particularly delicate case. He required the retrieval of letters once sent to an acquaintance that might have proved problematic. In order to conceal his noble identity, he also arrived at my office in a mask. The gentleman's name was Wilhelm Gottschrick Sigismunds von Ormstein. The King of Germany. What? My memory serves, the mask worn by this gentleman is identical. Yes, there can be no question. That mask belongs to the King of Germany. It appeared that His Majesty remembers the fine service I afforded him, and has decided to show his face again, mask and all, in order to express his gratitude. A well-mannered monarch indeed, wouldn't you agree, my dear fellow? So the identity of the masked visitor is in fact my former client, the King of Germany. Indeed, his son is currently in London as well, enjoying the wonders of the Great Exhibition. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, for sure. No, yeah. For real. For good. Girl silence. Which leaves us with one remaining imponderable. Yes, you, young Iris. But your apparently inexplicable silence is unable to hide the truth. B, hello! Yes, the reason for your muteness is concealed inside that knapsack. A 5-pound note, I believe. I must say, as your compatriot, I'm deeply saddened. It would appear that you've allowed yourself to be bribed into silence by His Royal Highness. How are you, B? Earning yourself some spending money in exchange for keeping quiet about the king's secret. And now, the final piece of the puzzle. What is the secret you strive to hide with your silence, Iris? Ah, yes, we need only follow that brief involuntary twitch of your eyes to find the answer. You were attempting to abscond with that coffee cup. What? My favorite coffee cup, in fact. Or should I say, the handle of my favorite coffee cup. It appears that His High-Spirited Highness broke it in the midst of his high jinks. I'm doing very well. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. Iris says, no. Which leads us to the sad truth. My favorite coffee cup has been broken by the King of Germany, and Iris, you tried to conceal it from me. I'm an idiot. I shall have a bill sent via governmental channels to the German royal family for its replacement. All right. What a dumb... He's dumb believable. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of this painful puzzle. With your silence as well, the fellow's jovial wobbling rather rings in the ears, does it not?
Mr. Sholmes, I must say something does rather trouble me.
Pray, Mrs. Sato, do tell.
His Royal Highness
hat wie ein
doesn't appear to have moved a muscle since we arrived.
Ah, you haven't said a word either, Iris. He's so silly. Mr. Sholmes has it all right. You might as well own up to it now. Your reasoning isn't entirely without substance, I must admit. And one other thing, Mr. Sholmes. Yet another grievance, Mr. Naruhodo. Surely not. Well, I actually read the story of that case recently, the one you were just describing. And according to that, at least, he wasn't a king of Germany. He was a king of Bohemia. Goodness, was it?
Yes, that's quite true. Master Gotz, the prince, testified to that in court. In his words, I have come to see the great exhibition all the way from my home in Bohemia.
I would ask you to keep that minor error to yourselves. It could easily become quite the scandal.
I believe, Mr. Naruhodo, that it's our turn now to make some corrections to a number of minor errors that might have slipped in.
Yes, even Mr. Sholmes is willing to admit he might be slightly wide off the mark this time. Though it's clear that Iris is definitely hiding something. We need to find out the truth behind this mysterious scene. But one truth is incontrovertible. My favorite coffee cup is no more. Ah! So, shall we embark again? To do it again! Let's do it again! Boo, 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 boo.
Hold it.
Am I gonna have a bandage on my head? Firstly, we consider the gentleman's nationality. Clearly, he's a German with no grasp of the English language. I think he's just dead, Sholmes, as evidenced by the Germanic song he sings and his apparent inability to understand what the hell we're saying. The answer, of course, Iris, is clearly known to you. Indeed, we only need to follow the gaze. It's the cup. Is it the cup? Probably not the cup. The fact that there's a dead guy on the couch. So what, it's some mix of herbs that gives you the urge to sing?
Goodness, I should like to try some.
And I'd like to hear you singing, but this man... How long does he intend to keep up with that tune, do you suppose?
As I said, he's been stock still the entire time, and if you look closely, his lips aren't moving either.
Ah,
So I'm not sure what is actually responsible for the spirited singing. But I suspect the answer lies at the end of Iris's gaze.
it's... I mean...
Wait, this is a gramophone, still rarely seen in our own country.
Not moving, though.
The sound certainly appears to be coming from the horn.
A machine singing? That can't be right.
Science and technology are changing the world rapidly, Mr. Naruhodo. What's right is changing too.
It's too much for my brain.
Well, at least we found our answer.
Presentu! Show me Bandage Head! No, he's not. They lied. The reason for the man's mildly irritating warbling is revealed by the gramophone. Indeed! I knew that all along, for no well-bred gentleman would break into an obscure folk song when making a social call. In other words, this gentleman isn't singing at all, in fact. It would appear that the fellow is unconscious. Ah, the music seems to have stopped now. I ask you, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? Why would I have purchased a recording of that gibberish? How should I know? Well, never mind. On with the deduction. Who exactly is this gentleman availing himself so thoroughly of the settee? As it happens, a number of years ago now, it was the King of Germany or whatever. We're skipping it all. I don't care. I'm not reading this part again. It was too silly. It's not the King of Germany, baby. Although we've already established it was actually the King of Bohemia.
Seems Mr. Sholmes intends to persist with his Germany theory for some reason.
Come to think of it, the young prince was wearing a mask as well, wasn't he?
Master Gotz, the boy whom you had in tears?
Don't remind me, or anyone else.
You suppose all members of the aristocracy of mainland Europe wear masks?
I'm sure they do. Well, probably anyway. The point is, that mask doesn't belong to any king.
No, that's right, as we well know. Because we can identify the true owner of this mask.
Isn't it a... I don't actually remember who that... I mean, it's... I guess it's Sholmes' mask, right?
Take that!
Because it was just in the place before. Yeah. No! Oh, wait. Oh? What do you mean, oh? It was on the table earlier. Wait a minute. Whose mask is it? What? This was just on the mask the whole time. I don't remember who had this mask before. Oh, no, wait. No, hold on. It's, what's his Chuck's mask? Wait. I forgot. wait. No, it's Kazuma's. I forgot why we have it, though. Where? Show me Kazuma with his extra big haircut. I love these portraits. The portraits have so much... Like, the real... Like, the 3D models also have so much character, but these portraits, forget about it.
Take that!
I forgot. I mean, it belongs to me now, so, you know. Yes, there can be no question. That mask belongs to Kazuma Asogi. In other words, my memory is sublimely unreliable. Only you could try to make that sound positive. Kazuma's mask has been languishing on this metal chest for several days. Though that doesn't explain why the gentleman is wearing it now. But it is now a simple matter to determine our guest's true identity. After all, the gentleman is unconscious. We need only excuse ourselves in advance, gently lift the mask, and peer beneath it. It was pretty obvious, though. I don't believe it. Ah! Father! I'm afraid, Mr. Sato.
No! I think not, Mr. Sholmes.
Wait, what? Must be mistaken.
I think not, Mr. Sholmes.
Then it would appear our logic and reasoning has once again revealed the truth. Susato in the deduction. This mysterious visitor
Is my unconscious father, Eugene Mikotoba.
Logic and reasoning are just looking and saying. This is all so unnecessary. We could have just picked up the mask in the first place. Which leaves us with one remaining imponderable. Yes, you, young Iris. But your apparently inexplicable silence is unable to hide the truth. You've got $5. That's a £5 note poking out from Iris's knapsack, is it?
Oh dear, I can't be sure. Most money that we encounter is in coin form.
I know, I'm not even sure we've seen any banknotes here in Britain at all, have we?
But anyway, Father would never have paid money for Iris's silence.
Certainly seems like the silent type himself, though, judging by his present state. So there must be some other reason for Iris's silence, I suppose.
Perhaps what Iris is trying so hard not to give away with her eyes is something entirely different.
I mean, what? Okay, hold on. I can't go any farther than that or this, so... What is she looking at?
This metal chest contains important documents, doesn't it?
Yes, details of all the cases Mr. Sholmes has worked on over the years. Written up by Iris's father, if I'm remembering correctly. Iris insisted this chest is locked at all times. She's never once shown me inside.
Well, its contents are invaluable to her, I suppose, and entirely irreplaceable. But look at it now. The latch is unlocked for once.
Ah, so it is. It's hard to ignore.
Very.
I've never seen that chest unlocked.
I've never seen that chest unlocked before in all the time we've been staying here at Baker Street.
Well, gee.
Take that!
Wow. Excuse me. Yes, the reason for your muteness is concealed inside that metal chest. An excellent observation, for upon closer inspection, there is something different about the chest's appearance. It's kept locked at all times, yet now the catch is open. Evidently, this has something to do with your refusal to speak, Iris. But it's a simple enough matter to incite you to speak, I'm sure. I merely need open this chest. Don't do it. Here we go!
No!
Oh my god. Okay, he's not dead then. I was worried he was like dead. Like he's dead.
Never!
Oh, I told you not to. Ah, so you found your voice now, Iris. Ha! In other words, what just happened clearly reveals the truth here. Yes, the real reason for your silence until now is...
This is somewhat different from your usual dance of reduction you perform with Mr. Sholmes, isn't it?
Well, he's left alone. He's left me alone on the ballroom floor, so I'm gonna have to dance this next part solo.
He's dead!
And anyway, I need to get to the bottom of this for my own peace of mind. Now then, Iris isn't usually the silent type, so...
You mean you don't actually know the answer yet, despite that knowing point of the finger before?
Mrs. Sato, sometimes a man needs to point his finger first and think later.
Oh, well, if you say so, I don't know, men are dumb, I guess, whatever. I think we better examine Iris more closely and try and rescue the situation then.
Oh. Is it the key, maybe? That's a key she's holding. Look, I'm sure that wasn't in her hands before, was it?
No, you're quite right. It's appeared as if by magic.
That's strange. A big old iron key. It materialized from. What is the...
Take that!
Production dances just get progressively getter throughout the duology. I love it. Yes, the real reason for your silence until now is that key behind your back. Ah! When Mr. Sholmes was thrown into the air before... God, I'm yawning all crazy. My tea is out and I'm getting sleepy again. Just before you called out to try and stop him, you slipped something out of your mouth. That something is the key now in your hand. Okay, it definitely did seem like something was like in her mouth. Like she just wasn't, it was weird. That something is the key now in your hands. No doubt the key to the chest. You're so clever right now. So now it becomes clear. Thanks to Mr. Sholmes' graphic demonstration, we can well imagine what happened here. Professor Mikitoba also opened that metal chest only to be punched into the air and land sprawled on the settee.
But wait, that doesn't explain all the facts. What about the stylish scarf and the cup of tea? And above all, why would he be wearing Kazuma-sama's mask?
Well, for those curious details, I can think of only one explanation. Clearly, an unbelievable miracle took place in this room. Isn't that right, Iris? Consider how the room was arranged before this whole painful experience took place. When Professor Mikitoba opened the chest, completely unaware of what awaited him inside, the mask was flung into the air just as he was, only to land neatly on his face when it fell back down. And the teacup's journey through the air ended when it caught on the unconscious professor's finger.
You mean to say that stylish scarf
is actually just a tablecloth? This is the great detective's office, after all, a place of miraculous deductions. Yeah! Would you expect anything less? Yes, you're right. It's exactly as you said. Riot, run out! Thus concludes Ryunosuke Naruhodo's great deduction of this punchy puzzle. I also just love thinking critically at all. Why don't I make a fresh pot of tea for us all? I can't imagine opening a trunk like that from above. I feel like I'd be down at it and opening it up. So you're telling me Mikitoba somehow opened the chest with all this stuff on top without spilling it? Yeah, I don't know. That's crazy. Oh.
Objection!
Whoa. An admirable performance, Mr. Naruhodo. But in the final act of the show here, you rather missed everything of importance. Mr. Sholmes, you would cast your mind back to my earlier deduction. Iris, clearly you're hiding a great secret. Ah, she is? From the look on her. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Were you looking for a good place to just let her rip? Thank you for choosing my stream for which to toot on. She is from the look on her face. Mr. Sholmes must be right. Whatever that great secret is, the cat isn't out of the bag yet. So I put you to it again. You are attempting to abscond with that coffee cup.
Really is a shame about Mr. Sholmes' cup.
Must have been smashed when Professor Mikotoba opened the chest.
Oh dear, so many things seem to have been broken here.
But now that the deduction has taken a different direction, Iris doesn't seem to be trying to hide the broken cup anymore.
In other words, her great secret is something else.
Let's put our observational skills to work one final time then. Oh my god! Ah, look, there! There seem to be more papers there.
Is Iris trying to hide them underneath the tray?
The insignia, Mr. Naruhodo. Mr. Naruhodo! It's an official Scotland Yard it's all her.
It's an official Scotland Yard document!
What? But why would Iris have? We must ask her! Oh, she know her daddy dead now. Probably.
Take that!
You were attempting to abscond with that case file. Iris, as you know very well, nothing escapes the attention of a great detective.
Oh no! I'm 10! How could this have happened to me?
We visited Scotland Yard's autopsy laboratory earlier today. Oh, forget about it. And Dr. Gorey informed us that the autopsy report of Clint Van Zeeks had gone missing. Clint Van Zeeks! Yes, I do seem to recall. That some years ago I asked to see the report in question. You were with me, weren't you, Iris? You mean it was you, Iris? So those papers you have there are...
I'm sorry! Forgive me!
To hide the case file.
Woo! You made a little girl cry. Hey, listen. Not no, but... In truth, I would like to have thought I could have predicted the booby-trapped chest. But it caught me completely off guard. I was very nearly the late consulting Detective Herlock Sholmes.
Ah, I'm sorry, honey.
So you mean this autopsy report really is?
Yes, I took it from the lab, even though I know it was very important.
The model's eyes are mesmerizing. Thank you.
Ah! Was there something in it that troubled you, Iris?
Not exactly something that troubled me. Something I'd been looking for. When I saw this report, when I saw the writing in it, I knew it was Daddy's! The writing?
Your father's writing? What do you really mean?
Iris? It must be something that's hard for her to talk about. Forgive me for interrupting, my dear fellows. Mr. Sholmes, what is it? I feel as though the poor unconscious gentleman on the settee has been somewhat forgotten.
Ah, father!
Perhaps we should find our guest somewhere more peaceful to rest. Is he... Can we just confirm that he is alive, though? Mr. Naruhodo, yes? Would you be so kind as to lend him your bed? We must do our very best to make him comfortable, I feel. Oh, yes, of course. I'll help you carry him up.
So will I.
No, I can manage alone. Thank you. You have tea to enjoy. You wouldn't want Iris's brew to stew. They make her sound like LSP. It's kind of was by accident. There's no better way to make the professor comfortable than dragging him upstairs like a trunk. I wonder, perhaps that was deliberate. Maybe Mr. Sholmes is making himself scarce to give Iris a chance to talk more freely.
You must use this opportunity to talk with Iris. And find out what's going on!
Tell me everything, Iris, baby. Feet first. Would you like to tell us about it, Iris? About your father? About your daddy. Prince Dave, hello! Head going up the steps like boom, boom.
I'm sure I told you before, didn't I, that Daddy used to be Hurley's partner. Yes, and the notes about all cases they solved together are kept inside that metal chest.
That's right, Harley told me yesterday. He said that Daddy's somewhat far away now, so we can't meet. That's one way of describing it. Then, when I secretly unlocked the chest and read through the papers inside, I started to build up a picture in my head of what Daddy must be like. Well, that's only natural.
You're just like me. You're just like any other girl of your age.
I read that Daddy was a professor of medical science, and I studied and took my degree too. Well, that's only natural, I suppose. For a 10-year-old. Need to get this gentleman somewhere more comfy. Boom, 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 boom.
So in that respect, you're not quite like any other girl of your age, though.
But there was one other thing I could never find out. Daddy's name. Ah, his name wasn't anywhere on any of the notes that he'd made about his work with Harley. But then one day... That's what happened, is it? When you saw this autopsy report, you finally managed to work it out, is that right? Yes, but it was the handwriting in the report that caught her eye. When I saw the writing on that report, I could hardly believe it. I know that handwriting, I thought to myself. Because it was the same as the writing you'd seen on your father's case notes. Exactly! I was desperate to compare the two properly. I needed to see them side by side. I asked the doctor in the laboratory, but I was told I couldn't take the report away. And even worse, I was told that the first and last time I'd be allowed to even look at it in there. So you decided to steal it. When I compared the autopsy report with the case notes I had here, there was no doubt. The handwriting was exactly the same. It was Daddy's!
And the signature of the coroner at the bottom of the autopsy report read Dr. John H. Wilson.
So that's how I finally found out. I learned Daddy's name at last. I see. Ever since then, I've called myself Iris Wilson. And that's also when I had the bad idea of writing stories all about Daddy's exciting times with Harley. I decided then and there and then, that I'd write the adventures of Sherlock Sholmes.
Oh, Iris, I had no idea the stories had quite such a deep personal significance for you.
You can see why the autopsy report was so important to her now. And why she was prepared to break the law to get her hands on it. I must apologize, Iris. Oh, yeah. This is really all my fault. Harley, I made a promise, you see, that until the time was right, I'd keep the details about your father a secret. I know, I've been very naughty. I'll take the autopsy report back to Dr. Gore and apologize, I promise. Yes, we'll go together, I think.
Then, let me look after it for you until we get there.
Yeah, we definitely need a copy of this. Definitely need to look at this. Lynn Van Zeek's 33, British, May 31st, 31st, between 9 and midnight. Coroner John H. Wilson. Observations: death from a single stab wound to the heart, other superficial external wounds indicative of a duel. Recent scarlet ink stains visible on the little and ring fingers of the right hand, but no document and corresponding ink was found. Vital evidence recovered from the victim's stomach during autopsy. Credit to Inspector Gregson for petitioning so doggedly for the autopsy procedure. What was the evidence? No internal trauma noted anywhere in the body. And then his hand signature. Okay. I must go and water my arms, I think. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye. Poor Iris, she must be feeling awful. I know Mrs. Sholmes is here for her, but still. Ah!
What? How? What's the meaning of this, Mr. Sholmes?
Mr. Sholmes? Oh, dear me. So, you've noticed, I see. What?
But that would mean...
What on earth's the matter, Mrs. Sato? You've turned as white as a sheet.
It's this autopsy report, Mr. Naruhodo, the one from 10 years ago. The writing. isn't Dr. Wilson's at all.
Huh? What do you mean? How could you possibly know that?
Because I know this writing very well. This writing is my father's!
Oh my god. What? Professor Mikitoba's? Indeed, it's true. And now you know, my dear fellows. No, I don't know anything. What on earth does all this mean, Mr. Sholmes? Because the idea that's slowly forming in my mind is just too extraordinary to believe. Please, you have to explain. Are they related? So this autopsy report was actually penned by Professor Mikitoba then. But that makes no sense. It's not possible, surely. Not possible, my dear fellow. Pray, take a deep breath and think again.
Yes, you're right. In some ways, it actually makes a great deal of sense.
It does?
10 years ago is when Father returned to Japan after his extended study tour in Britain.
And prior to his return, where was Dr. Mikitoba engaged? Ah, of course. He was an assistant in Dr. Wilson's laboratory, learning about forensic science. And as an assistant, he would have aided with the dissection work, making detailed notes, which would be assembled into the full autopsy report. Once the work was complete, the head coroner would check the contents and put his signature on the document.
In other words, the only writing of Dr. Wilson's in the report would be his signature at the end.
I see. So Iris got the wrong end of the stick, you mean? She saw that and assumed the whole report had been written by Dr. John H. Wilson.
Which is very understandable, of course.
What a complicated situation. But thinking about it, most of what we know about you, Mr. Sholmes, come from the published stories of your exploits.
Yes, The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, written by Iris.
And we really have no way of knowing what's fact and what's fiction. Most troubling for you, my dear fellow, I'm sure. So what's this supposed... What about this supposed partner of yours? Did he really exist or not? Ah, you've come straight to the point, I see.
And please come straight to the answer.
I believe Iris explained it in one of her installments. He was a trusted comrade and the only person I could truly have called a friend.
And did this partner of yours truly make a record of all your cases? Are his notes really stored inside that metal chest?
Absolutely, my dear madam, absolutely. So, where's your partner now? We rarely meet, you see. He lives on the other side of the world. But if this autopsy report and the records of all your old cases were penned by the same hand, and if the autopsy report was written, though not signed, by your famous partner, there would only be one logical conclusion. Pray impress me. Your partner would have to be Yuji Mikitoba. In other words, Miss Sasato's father. Upon my word, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? You are coming along wonderfully. You have hit upon the method at last. You finally grasp the art of deduction. You mean to say... Allow me to introduce you to my great friend and partner, Mikitoba. Professor Mikitoba, a new song. Yeah! Wow! Johnny Wilson was just some guy.
Does this mean that you're the real Dr. Wilson?
No, my dear. I'm still my old self, Yuji Mikitoba, your father.
Oh, of course.
This is obviously too much for Sasato-san to take in. I like doing his voice too, I must say though. How my old friend has attained worldwide celebrity as a great mystery solver is the greatest mystery of all. I still remember the first time we met. Pray remind me, when was it again, Mikitoba? 16 years ago, Sholmes. Ah, yes, quite, 16 years ago. I just arrived from Japan with Seishiro and Genshin. I was in search of lodgings close to the hospital, some comfortable rooms at a reasonable price. But rents are devilishly high in that particular area. That's right, so I decided I needed someone to share lodgings and the expense.
and was fortunate enough to be introduced to Sholmes, who found himself in a similar situation. What are their ages? 43, 34. Oh, they were okay. I was a callow fellow back then, a mere shadow of the great detective you see before you now. I was working at the hospital's chemical laboratory at the time, indulging my curiosities for little gain. And the situation of our cohabitation led us to pursuing cases together, you see. Hard to believe. It was a mere 6 years. We had a great many adventures. But in the last year of Mikitoba's stay in Britain, that most infamous of cases presented itself. The case with which you've become rather familiar yourselves, the Professor killings. After the trial, Seishiro and I were summoned back home. Hardly surprising given the circumstances. So there you have it. And as you know, all the details recorded in my trusty chronicler remain in that metal chest. This is just amazing. Professor Mikitoba really is Mr. Sholmes' famous partner. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Father!
Goodness, my dear, what a cutting look.
As your daughter, I'm very proud to learn that you were the great detective's great partner. But nevertheless, there's another mystery that I really must ask you to explain now.
And that is?
You know very well what it is. The unresolved matter of Iris's father.
Ah, of course, I'd almost forgotten. Duh, bud. Rats made me crazy. I don't know why suddenly that's popping up. I feel like Cozy brought that to my attention as like an old-timey thing, and suddenly everybody's saying it again. I should have seen this coming, I suppose. Iris's father, and why it's you.
Iris told us that all the notes about the great detective's adventures are in that metal chest. Were written by your father. Isn't that correct, Mr. Sholmes?
That is indeed what I told young Iris.
But if you're Mr. Sholmes' partner, Father, and you wrote all those case notes, then Iris' father must be you!
Ah! On my word, Mrs. Sato. You are coming along wonderfully as well. You too have hit upon the method at last. You finally grasp the art of deduction. What?
What you've always told me, Father, is that my mother died when I was born 16 years ago, and you left me in grandmother's care whilst you embarked on your study tour of Britain. And I've always accepted that, but all this about Iris...
Oh, there it is. Sato-san's ice-cold stare. No, now hold on a minute. It was very complicated. I mean, it's really not what you think.
Then perhaps you'd like to explain exactly what it is!
There it is. Now the eyes go to the ice cold to red hot just before she... No, really, you've got the wrong end of the stick. Show him, say something, man. That's quite enough, my fiery fellows. Mr. Sholmes, when did he get all dressed up? Whilst I don't like to interrupt this exciting exploration of the past, Mikitoba and I have an urgent matter that requires a short excursion.
But it's very late, Mr. Sholmes. Where must you go?
Why, my dear madam, is that not obvious? My partner and I must pursue our natural enemies. So, get your coat, Mikitoba. The game is afoot. But Sholmes, I really must give Susato a full explanation, I think. Later, my dear fellow, later. Our carriage awaits downstairs already. Let's listen to the music. You haven't changed one iota, have you? I mean, really, I visit our home after 10 long years. When I open that chest in a fit of nostalgia, I quite inexplicably pass out. And as if that wasn't enough, when I eventually regain consciousness and plunge straight into all this.
Father, please. Go with Mr. Sholmes now.
What?
I have no doubt that whatever happened, you were acting in everyone's best interest. I trust you. Completely.
Susato.
And sending the great detective and his great partner off on renewed adventures together is more than I could have hoped for in my wildest dreams.
She's such a fangirl. She's like, my dad is a famous book character. Very well. So, I believe your own work is done for the day. I wish you the best of luck tomorrow. What has he got on him? Oh, that's in the background. It's like, what has he got? Is it a lollipop stuck to him? No, it's something in the back. Yes, Naruhodo. Good luck in battle and in reaching a decision. Decision? About whether to go back to Japan, I suppose.
So much happened that day that I barely knew what to do with myself. It would only be later that I'd come to realize how amidst the chaos I'd unleashed were all the clues I needed to finally unearth the truth, and that all the turmoil was necessary
Pancakes
to
hello.
give me the resolve to see everything through.
Yeah! Yeah! Ah! Wait, name drop? Whose name? What name? Wait, what did I miss? Whoa! I got an achievement. Ow! Oh, oh. Oh, right. I forgot that that was the name of this game. Oh my god, y'all. Pancakes, welcome. I'm sorry, you've entered at the very end of the stream, and that was the end of that episode. Resolve of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. So we have one case left. We didn't like finish that case. I guess this case is just like a big old two-parter. The second case doesn't have that many things happening in it, I guess. I don't know. Oh my god, though, babies. We're gonna back out of this. That's how big this is. Hell yeah, and that took us right up to noon. Return to the title screen, please. Oh my god. Oh my god. Options! My favorite part about this game is that you have to quit the game in the options menu. These games have been so fun to solve with you. You're so entertaining. G-Mama, thank you! I'm still deciding what I want to play after this. I mentioned it at the beginning of stream. I played this 109 hours already. Wow, wow, wow. There is... How to say? There is, that bug game. Actually, yeah, let's go back for a sec. Hold on. I'll show you all. So there's Vladimir Putin on a horse. So we have a Bug Fables. Bug Fables is real cute. Or it looks real cute anyway. They just announced today that they're gonna remaking the 1,000-Year Door in the Nintendo Direct. That is a big goddamn deal. That is like a big step for Nintendo. So I might want to play this because this game is supposed to kind of be a spiritual successor to that kind of game. Like the devs took a lot of inspiration from that game, and I already own it, but I've never played it. But the other option that I have is this Eastward game, which I have played before briefly. I didn't finish it. I streamed a little. I streamed like maybe 2 streams of it. And I liked it a lot, but then I just stopped playing it, and I don't really know why. So I would like to, I think it was just not the kind of game I was expecting. It was more story-based, and I was trying to not do so many story-based things at that time. Eastward is kind of a weird one. It's like, it's got a lot going on, and I don't really, part of it is like, I've never heard of the 1,000-Year Door. Oh, really? Oh my god. Okay, so check it out. Did you see the, okay, hold on. Let me just, I know what we're here doing, but let me pull up the 1,000-Year Door. And we'll watch that real quick. Videos, yes, this. Okay, yes. So this game was out for the GameCube. And I'll talk about it after, but we're just gonna watch. Like, look at how good this looks. Like, forget about it. Ugh. Stop. Everything's so good. They kept the news, yeah. It's in advance. Oh. Cozy and I watched this live this morning, and we were well, she didn't really know about this, but I was screaming. And they remastered all the music, and it sounds so good. Woo! Where's the ghost girl? I don't know if they show her in the trailer. Well, they showed 2 of them. No, this art style is like insane. It already looked good on the GameCube, and it just looks even better now. The end is just sort of, we'll watch it, but it's like at the very end it takes a turn to show us something kind of serious. And then it just ends very somberly. So Paper Mario. Let me see how many list of Paper Mario games. So yeah, is this Wikipedia? Yeah, okay. So here we go. We got the original Paper Mario for the 64 in 2000. Then 2004 for the GameCube, they came out with this. And before all this, they had Super Mario RPG for the Super Nintendo, which is one of my favorite games of all time, right? And I kind of admit, I didn't have this game, and I never had a GameCube. I played this later on the Wii, but I didn't grow up with a GameCube. I had the 64 and then all the other Nintendos. I think I had like a PlayStation at this time, so I had like the PlayStation games. But then they made Super Paper Mario for the Wii, and that game was pretty good, but it was like more of a platformer. And this was sort of the beginning of the end. I think this game, I still remember liking this game quite a bit, but it was a departure. And then every other game after that has been not very good. So we had Sticker Star, which is famously very terrible. I don't know what this Paper Jam is. That's a Mario and Luigi game. I guess that was for the 3DS? I haven't heard of that. And then Color Splash, which is another mainline game that a lot of people also really hated. So and then the Origami King, which sort of solidified what they are trying to do with the Paper Mario games now. I'll turn the music back on. I have no idea there was so many. There's a lot. But like the new ones aren't bad. I love Sticker Star. Listen, if you liked it, that's fine, but like my understanding is that it was not like a very good game, especially on the laurels of the games that came before it, right? Because this game has so much creativity, there is so much going on. It is just like, if it wasn't Mario, it would still be like a really super solid game. And admittedly, I haven't played these newer games, so I can't say with myself, but like my understanding is that like they're just really boilerplate, like kind of boring, not very well. They have like a gimmick. Like the gimmick is this like coin ring system, but like you just have all the coins you need very quickly, so it becomes a non-issue. Like it really just feels like they're sort of dumbing these games down. When they aren't really complicated in the first place, so you just get this experience that's like very dumbed down. And people, the fans of Thousand Year Door have been begging Nintendo. It is 20 years later. Wow. For a sequel to, or not a sequel, but like just to kind of like to make games like Thousand Year Door again, to like take a chance and like just let things be fun and original. But instead, what they're doing is they're making Paper Mario games where all the Toads have to look identical, and all the Shy Guys and all the Koopas have to look identical. Like you saw in this, like there's so much creativity. Like all these guys look, like like Goombette here, I forget if that's her name, but it might just be, I don't remember if that's her name, but she's got like a cool, I don't know, it's not much, but she's got a ponytail, she's got like a little headlamp thing. We got, I remember I think the Koopa, the boy, and then there's like this guy, he's another Goomba, you know, and their design philosophy, reportedly, at Nintendo now, is that, they can't do that. They have to make, like, they can't deviate from making them look different, which is, like, ridiculous. That's like, oh, there, I think his name's Skips, but I might be wrong. Oh, no, it's Koops. And this game just has so much going on for it. There's a talking computer, and they have discussions about emotions all the time. It's, like, crazy. So, Nintendo RPG fans are eating good this upcoming year because Mario RPG is also really, really, really good. This might be a better game, ultimately. I like Mario RPG better just because I grew up with it more. But they're neck and neck. I think this game is held in higher regard. But that other game I love it a lot. So anyways, that's the whole deal with this. So, that Bug Fables game is a spiritual successor to this, right? And then Eastward is another game. So those are the two things I'm kind of thinking about maybe jumping into. I would like a slightly shorter game experience, to break from this really, really long one. Modernization design. Yeah, it's real awful, and no fans that are paying attention are like, yeah, I do like this, actually. You know what I mean? So, it's, rough. It's unfortunate. So, I hope that people will buy this one, and they'll be like, oh my god, I love it very much, very dearly. I will very likely pick this up because I want them to make more games like this, and the only way we can make them see is with our wallets, right? So, I think the other games sold pretty well, and I feel like the writing was good. Who's the Booba Ghost? I forget who she is, but she blows air. She blows air. And that's her power. There's also, I hope that they adjust the translation a little bit because I don't know that they showed them anywhere, but there is another, it might be a spoiler, which is why there's like 3 ghosts. And one of the ghosts gets bullied a lot by the other 2. And in the Japanese version, but like she ends up being the redeemed, right? Spoilers. But like I guess in the Japanese, like that character is trans, and in the English translation, they just sort of omitted any mention of that. So they just made her like a cis woman. So that's like not my favorite, and I don't know if they will. I don't know how they'll handle that, I guess. Because I don't know the extent of the, you know what I mean? So, of like in the Japanese, like what kind of was said, kind of the extent of perhaps the bullying of 2004, you know what I mean? I don't know. So, I'm curious to see kind of how they'll handle that. But, very, very excited. This was the directs always have like their last announcement is like, their big deal one, you know. Let me just go through this because now we're here. Splatoon's cute, but I don't play it. This game will be fine. They're making an Anya game, dude. You get to play as little Anya and like take pictures and stuff. So that's fun. I like that. Super Mario RPG, more info about that, but this looks like a very good remake. I'm very appreciative that nothing, like everything they've done just seems to be an up-res, and they haven't really redone any of the models. Like they've just recreated them as faithfully as possible. This I'm also excited about. We're just hanging out now.
DS game, trace memory, return.
I never played this game, but I liked playing a lot of these kinds of games when I was playing the DS, you know, like these story kind of puzzler. They were kind of visual novels. There was Hotel Dusk around that time, all the Phoenix Wright games, of course. But I never played this, and apparently this is going to be released with the second game that never came out in America, so that's cool. because it sounds like they're both parts of the same story, so we never got in America the both parts of the story. The Peach game looks cute as all get out. Forget about it. She puts on a little, she's got like like a costume change game, so now she's like, whoa, I'm gonna hit you with my sword, and then like, there's like, I think she's like dressed up as a baker. Yeah, look at her, come on, she's so cute. And a bunch of other things. We got another Saga game. I've always had issues with the Saga games, but people seem to like them. Lara Croft, I don't care about. This, I don't feel like this is going to sell well at all, because those games are, the controls are archaic. They're old school PC controls. Unless they upgraded that, I don't see this doing well at all. Detective Pikachu will be fine. They're putting Trombone Champ with 4 local co-op players on the Switch. All these other things that don't make something called this game's called Unicorn Overload. It's like, this game looks so serious. They're releasing the game duo, including a localization. Can they do that? Yeah, I really want to see the Edgeworth games, because I would love that. I would love that very much. They're remaking Luigi's Mansion 2. Amiibo stuff, this F-Zero game, F-Zero 99 that's out now, I guess. 2 League of Legends story games, which I don't care about. I don't care about League of Legends. This is what got me thinking about Eastward, because there's like an expansion where you can like do farming and stuff, which seems a little out of place. But I haven't really beat the game, so I don't know. Dave the Diver on Switch, new Mario Kart, a new Among Us map, I guess, and then Paper Mario. So this was like a pretty good direct without a lot of chaff. There was only a small amount of chaff, in my opinion, of games that like kind of need to be talked about, but they're not out yet, you know what I mean? So they're not like very good. So that's kind of what I'm all excited about, baby. But first we gotta beat these last few cases, or the last few streams of this new case. Oh my god, thank you all so dang much for hanging out. No streams, so not this weekend, but next weekend I am tentatively planning over on my editing YouTube channel doing another one of my workshop streams. So if you have any interest in watching me do editing and workshop other people's shorts, I would love to see you there. That's the only time I stream on YouTube is during those streams. First we gotta dig up government secrets. So that's really exciting, but this weekend I won't be, but maybe next weekend, so just keep an eye out for that. Additionally, here is my card. It is a one-stop shop to all things Comfy Catboy. If you want to commission my services, find my socials, that is the best place to do it. We also have the Discord. It's a beautiful place full of lovely people. Somebody's playing Chrono Trigger? Well, we gotta raid them. That game will never get a visual remake, and that's sad to me. I don't like that. I wish that it was not like that. But whatever. What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? Start a war over it?
Oh, cool. Getting murdered right after going to...
This is not Chrono Trigger. Did they just start streaming? They're doing something else. So I wanted to raid because of Chrono Trigger. So we're not going to. Who else is on?
Who of my friendos? My little friendos. My little friendos.
Oh, you know what? Maybe we could raid. I don't usually raid like significantly larger streamers. But we're gonna raid Ayuchi because they seem like a sweetheart. And they're just chatting. So we're gonna do that. I love you all 2 pieces. Can I copy and paste your name, please? Okay. So Ayuchi. I don't know what they're up to, but they do be talking. They're just chatting. I love you all to pieces. I'll be back this upcoming Wednesday, and we are gonna finish this case in the next couple of streams. Oh my god, this has been 2 years in the making. I love you all to pieces. I will see you next time. And then, yeah, if you are a subscriber, you can copy and paste our raid message. Thank you so much. I love you. I will see you next time. Goodbye. Goodbye. Boo, boo, boo. Ah, boo, boo, boo. Ah, ba, 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 ba.